family for the week. I got really into yesterday's live stream and then went a little bit ham, let's say, and did a whole update. So here we go. I will show you real quick. I won't go into every little detail, but I'll just scroll down this, so if you want to, you could pause the video and read what this update entails. As you can see, there's a rework to the black metal, added some meadow spots, added vengeful enemies, and changed goblin camp raiding mechanics, and refreshed the whole southern plains area, which is accessible on the south of the starting continent. And essentially, I was really inspired by all the things that we've done with dungeons and this loop of clearing dungeons and building. So I want to try the same idea, except instead of just getting like wood and these things, getting stone-themed building resources from raiding goblin camps and adding more replayability to the goblin camps through variety of encounter and different things that can occur. So one of the things that we'll be testing today, as we set out our building area in the plains to make a cool tower, because now I'm settled on that spot, is figuring out if these things work. 'Cause in theory, the game will now notice when the player kills the last goblin in a camp, and then sometimes something will happen. And let's just say there's many different things that can now happen. And there's also things that happen while you're fighting the goblin. Every goblin that you kill has a chance of respawning a vengeful goblin at a later point. And we also did some restoration here. Because in the process of doing this, I had to restore a whole area of path that I nerked. So ended up redoing this whole place, and now it's invincible. Luck of the draw, I suppose. So what I'm going to be doing at first is just kind of running around for a bit and showing you all some of the changes, because you'll, if you recognize the planes from before, you'll notice that it is different. There's locations in different places, and I'll talk a bit about what I learned, because a lot of the stuff in the previous stream, it was set up from experiences where I hadn't been managing Path of Magic and doing all this Valheim stuff. But now that I'm more used to it, let's just say I made some mistakes. So let me clear these skeletons real quick. I gotta boost my confidence a little bit. Feel like I'm strong. Yeah. Awesome. So pretty much, what I had been doing by mistake was I placed locations before without any regard to the zone borders. And Valheim is split up into these things called zones. They're like 64 by 64 meter areas. And you have to place things pretty much in the center of the zone. That's for the best. And I didn't know that. If you don't do that, what's going to happen is the game will basically delete certain things, but it won't succeed in deleting everything. And then it will respawn the whole new location. So you get this like doubling effect that causes instances to increase per reset that occurs. And eventually you find yourself in a situation where you have a super laggy area, like what was happening before, and then all the goblin camps look all weird and gnarly and they don't work properly. Well, no longer. You see, now this area should look like a totally normal, well, not totally normal plains, but a plains without all that weirdness. Like before there was all these abandoned goblin camps with no goblins, you know? No, we're not about that life. Hey! Hey! I just need one more iron. I'm testing a strategy here with this building situation where I'm not really taking that much stuff there. Because the idea is that we should be able to find spots and set things up and then get resources to build simply by fighting things in a dungeon or maybe in a camp nearby and then getting resources that way. So in this case, curiously, oh, okay, I see. No, I get it. I get it. There were goblins here, but then a player came here. That's awesome. The others also use this area, of course. It's the first planes you really access in the beginning of the Path of Magic. And I followed kind of like a pattern, if that makes sense, with placing the locations. So I really like the Goblin Towers. So I placed Goblin Towers where there's like a bit of elevation, if that makes sense, where it seems more like appropriate for a tower. And then the camps are along water access. So they're near the riverbank or near the ocean shore. And the idea there is to kind of make it encourage players to raid goblin camps from a boat. And if we have a bunch of things in the middle of the mainland, that doesn't really help them use a boat more, right? But if most of the goblin camps are accessible, you know, just within short walk from the shore where they can park their boat, I don't know. Maybe that'll work out well. I think it could, to be honest. I really do. I think it could. And I also am experimenting, so there's more, let's say, Grey Dwarf spawners in a Black Forest right next to Goblin Camp in the plains, that kind of situation. I wanted to encourage more monster growth. And here is our base area, so I put a chest directly where it is, and I'm gonna test something with this base. I found out that, alright, for placing locations like dungeons and these things, they need to be in the center of a zone. But for this other stuff, I think it's something else. Let's see. Hey, someone set something up already. That's cool. Well, kind of set something up. There's a little house here. This is new. Maybe Jerry, not Yer, Jerry, set this up. Hey, and they brought some stone. That's really cool. Well, I don't know who did this, but that's awesome. So this barrel right here, this is the center point of this test I was just talking about before I got distracted. Because dungeons need to be, basically the dungeon is in the center of the zone. But I have a theory that maybe with a player base, it's better if the base is actually split, so the center of the base is on the corners of zones. Because then, in theory, when you are coming up to the base from far away, it will load the base in multiple steps as you get closer, instead of all in the same step. Because the Valheim loads things by zone, so it loads everything in that zone. So in dungeons, that's a problem because things get deleted and respawned. If it wasn't for that, it wouldn't be much of a problem, right? So in player bases, they're not getting deleted. So maybe it's the opposite. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. So I'm going to use this barrel. Basically, I placed it at the exact center area to start the tower base, right? And so I figured this is a nice spot. It's got a good view, and also it's got like a kind of grand vista. And we can see the sealed tower over there, and also mountain stuff over here, and some ocean. So seems like a solid spot, I'd say. And as you'll see later, I've made it so that basically when you kill goblins in certain locations, you get extra loot. And there's increased chances for these things called builders boxes. And there's like, I don't know, like 14 different builders boxes. And there's like a wooden box that has like 600 wood in it. And there's a grouston box that has like 400 grouston. And a crystal box that has 200 crystal. That's the builder's box. It's basically a cargo crate that is filled with a bunch of a particular kind of building material. And the idea is to kind of help inspire people a little bit. Maybe like, I don't know, maybe if I'm being idealistic here, but the notion is that they'll get a builder's box. Yeah, sometimes they're ignored, that's fine. But other times, it'll be like, oh, I could build something with that. And then they build something. I don't know, like, I want to really get at this notion of, like, yeah, it's no map, no portal, but that doesn't mean you have to lug everything around. I want to make it reliable that you can build bases near like goblin camps and dungeons, and then use those to get the resources to build stuff. And based on where it is, maybe the kinds of resources you get, the flavor of resources you get, is going to be different, right? So I figured in the plains, why not focus on stone? Because I've always had this kind of itchy feeling about making some kind of stone plains castle thing. But I always chop down those pillars, and they're so beautiful. It's kind of sad to chop down the stone pillars, you know what I'm saying? So, for now, let's begin. We're going to start with using a couple different mechanics here. So the first one is to establish our nonsense chest. Nonsense chests are a mechanic that allows players to reduce their item management in the beginning of the base building experience. There's a few things like this on Path Magic, including Builder's Bells, which are aimed at allowing players to have an easier time building in a new or dangerous location. To make a nonsense chest, you go up to any container, and then all you do is type say nonsense. And then what it's going to do is target the nearest container and declare it as your nonsense chest. These nonsense chests are only available one every 200 meters. So I can't now make this a nonsense chest because there's another one around. And as you can see, when you do this, it tells you where the current nonsense chest is, right? So it's a way to help you identify it if you lose track of where it is. The idea is there's one per base, and then look inside of it, boom. This is a serious inventory chest, you know what I'm saying? And what I realized is that when players, and myself, obviously I'm a player, first join an area, go to an area, you have to like be smart enough and organized enough to start by building organization, and a lot of people get overwhelmed by that part, especially beginning players. And it ends up being kind of frustrating how much inventory management they are just forced into doing all of the time. Kind of like how with farming, if you play completely vanilla, it's better now with Bogwitch in all honesty, but before, like, you had to spend a lot of time gathering stuff to make food. So maybe half the time you were playing, you were farming and getting food, and the other time you were fighting. Which is fine if you enjoy that balance, but there's a lot of players who would prefer to do more combat and get more food, right? So I'm trying to give people the options. I think that the food and cooking experience in Valheim is awesome, but I don't think that it's good to force people to do things. I prefer to give people different options. So that's why these nonsense chests exist. They're a way that you can just declare one in the very beginning, and then you can keep things simple by just stuffing everything into that nonsense chest, allowing you to have more kind of simplicity, right? And peace of mind, so to speak. So here I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to build a little bit here, let's say. Make something like this. And we're just going to combine all this stuff into this barrel here, right? Except one stack of arrows. I should keep those with me. Hey, hello Tony. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you're doing well. And hello Amersa. Amersa. Welcome. Cool, awesome. Ah, and Ping as well. Hey, I'm not alone anymore. That's cool. When I checked earlier, I was the only one on the server. Fantastic. So what I'll have to start with is sort of setting up a little bit of space here, right? I mean, I don't even have a bed nearby. I don't have any food. And that's what I want to get at. I want to see, like, what is necessary for the player to be able to just go to an area, with minimal resources. And sorry, I'm just amused. Sometimes I wonder how people find their way onto the server without noticing that it's a no map server. But that actually happens, so I guess I don't do the best job of communicating that. By the way, Path of Magic is a no map, no portal server, just so you know. So, what I was getting at before is I've noticed a lot of the frustration can come from players being forced into things. It's better that they are naturally curious about things, right? And in this building situation, I want to find out what's necessary. So for a player to come to an area with minimal stuff and then be able to start simple and build up from there, right? And we can see that this area is relatively safe. I have the advantage of having set the whole area up. So I picked where the different goblin camps are and these things. So I know where most of it is. The idea here is to focus more on a building experience combined with the goblin camp experience, right? So right now we just have the fact that on Palm there's no dangerous goblin spawns or anything like that. As you progress, nothing really changes in that sense. You just get skeletons around you at night. And sometimes that can cause some other things to happen. That was fast. So a new player joined and then was like, why isn't there a map here? And then they cheated and got black screened. So, Amersa, you shouldn't use cheat commands here. Okay? Oh gosh, a pack leader. I don't know where this came from. No, it's everything, Yan. So Yan just asked, wait, what? Blocking gives shield? I thought it was only parries. No, the bubble blocking system can even work with unarmed. It doesn't care what you block with. So you could probably make some kind of weird kind of food-eating monk, to be honest, using bubble block. It really is meant to be a system that's so powerful that when you use it, like, it enables melee to just be a lot more genuinely useful. Because melee is really unbalanced, traditionally, I'd say. Ah, yeah. I was worried about breaking all the trees down, but I don't have to worry about that anymore because now the explosive arrows only damage enemies. They don't actually, and also you, but they don't destroy the trees anymore. It was just too destructive. It was like you could tear down a whole mountain just by shooting a couple arrows. That was really close. I'm distracted because I'm trying to remember. I made these so if you're listening to this, I'm going to reveal the secret basically. But I made these commands so if people get, if they enter certain states that are using dev commands or like a cheat thing, let's say they try and spawn a cheat sword or they try and use a cheat sledge or they try and fly, that kind of thing, then it basically, it doesn't kick them automatically, but it black screens them by loading data to the player, which makes you disappear basically. But then you have to log out and it's kind of confusing. But I made it so that earlier, if you see where it says Immersa black screened right, it's like code basically, because the player won't know what that means. Like maybe it seems like a glitch or something, but it stands for something, and I'm trying to remember which one it is, because black screened right is BR. And if I remember right, I used the acronym that matched what it actually was. But I don't remember. I know the things that can trigger it are like using a cheat sword, using a cheat sledge, going into debug fly, having more than 400 health, some other things. I don't remember. And you're not banned, by the way. You're welcome to come back. It's I only ban people if it's like they get in the way of other players, if that makes sense. Like if someone asks you to leave them alone and you don't respect that, you'll get banned and then you won't be able to join. But for the most part, I don't like banning people. I prefer like that you learn, okay, this is how you need to behave on the server. You know what I mean? And like it's very transparent. Like the server tattles on you. It tells everybody what you're doing. So it's a lot harder to like do things without people noticing. Because even like when you're just shooting arrows, like see, the server just said Labrat is shooting arrows in the plains. So it like advertises and writes a story, and you can look in Discord, right? And this is all just ways to like make it so that when you play, you know, you learn to play in a way that's like more beneficial for yourself and other people. But just to be clear, like, yeah, I really don't like banning people. It's not something I do. So if you ever get black screened, you'll just get like kicked off and you have to log out and then you can log back in. Just don't do the thing that you did that made that happen, basically. Now, this is the bane of my existence as well. As Yannick said, the fire arrows, they explode, right? And if you're too close, then you'll get burned as well. That's what's going on here. I don't know if you noticed, but I actually lost I lost all my armor. So now I have to remake everything. Because I got destroyed and then I reset the zone and I forgot that my tombstone was there, so I deleted it. And I just accepted it because it works out. I'll just get more. It's alright. Oh gosh. I think I'll be alright if I just kill this pack leader, then it'll be fine. I'm glad that the arrows are this intense. So if you're new to Palm, there's two things to learn, pretty much. One is bubble blocking. And two is the arrows have like AoE damaging effects. So if you shoot a fire arrow, like it explodes. If you shoot a frost arrow, it does a frost nova. If you shoot a silver arrow at an undead, you know, it destroys all the undead nearby. And the poison arrows do a load of poison damage. So if you ever find yourself in a situation that just seems absurd, like there's probably a mechanic that you can use that gives you some absurdly powerful weapon, basically, so that you can actually defeat the thing you're trying to kill. Let's see, I'm gonna take a risk here. Can I survive? Oh, I did, okay. And that means I can convert to showing you some bubble blocking stuff. I apologize for how dark it is. I forgot to put gamma on. Oh, okay. So anytime you block or parry with any weapon or armor or unarmed in Path of Magic, you will get a bubble shield. But it's a special kind of bubble shield. It like removes the visual effect just because otherwise you'd spend the whole game staring at a magic bubble, which is not very ideal. So that's why it disappears. It's purely because it's frustrating to look at all the time. But the reason this happens is, now look at this. This is a 2-star enemy that is also tough. Oh, I was about to show off that I could survive one hit, but then I tanked the shield to some full damage. So now I will die if I take even a single hit from this enemy. So that's not going to happen. And these, I don't know if you've noticed, but on Palm, so the mobs are the same, but their behavior is different. So for example, this is a tough monster. Tough monsters don't run around you as much. basically. They go and they attack as soon as they can, and then they come up to you and attack, and then they come up to you again and attack, and then they come up again and attack. They don't like run away. And that makes their behavior a little bit different, because almost all monsters in Valheim attack once or twice and then have some kind of sort of running away mechanism. And so Tony says, okay, so they were talking about something about the shields. So I'll clarify something about the shield system. So I recently patched it because I found out that the bubble block wasn't working. If you like blocked and there wasn't an enemy within 12 meters of you, then you wouldn't get the bubble. Make sense? So, oof. Oh gosh. Oh, I didn't get any luck. And so I changed it so that it doesn't require an enemy anymore. So the thing that I'm going for, yeah, I'm so close. Oh, it's so relieving to die and be close to my body. So basically, oh, I lost my train of thought. Yep, dying made me lose my oh yeah, I get it. I remember. I was talking about the tower shields. So essentially, the tower shields and the bubble blocking, they are triggered by the same thing. So if you're wearing a tower shield and it's equipped and you block, you'll get the bubble, and at the same time, you'll also get the movement speed increase. And that will last for, I think it's like 5 minutes, or maybe it's 10 minutes. I don't remember. It's the same thing as the mead. So the consequence is that you can't use that mead anymore, right? But I don't think it's the end of the world. I'm going to use some of this superfood here. I think I'll be all right. And there's a couple other mechanics that I want to show off, because it's also possible for the player to that works. I felt like checkers. That felt just like checkers. Like, I hopped over him, he vanished. We're playing checkers. This is checkers. Yeah, screw you, Deathsquito. I'm a checkers master. As I got killed by the previous one. Sorry, I know sometimes I get distracted because I'm like trying to talk about something and then like something happens and I'm like, oh crap. So, yes. That's another thing I've never talked about. So the bubble shield is stronger depending on the biome that it occurs in. Basically, the bubble shield system has been revamped and patched like 7 times, maybe 8 times, and I've like added things and adjusted them each time. So the main thing to keep in mind with it is it's all health dependent and your block skill and that stat. But really the easiest way, because like I don't have a super high block skill or something. Like if I look at my block, let's see, what is it? It is 22, right? nothing too crazy. I tend not to get that high skills, to be honest. But when you look at the health on Palm, you have access to more health food. There's just more bases. Other players have made food. And in general, like most players kind of over prepare stuff. So on Path of Magic, at least, it's pretty communal, and you can use food pretty liberally when you come across it. You don't have to worry as much about like eating someone's stash, because most of the bases that are on the main part of the path are communal bases. Not all of them. Like if you see a war, that's probably a clear indication it's somebody's personal base, and they don't want people taking stuff. But for the most part, if you don't want people taking things, you should build your base out of the way in a more dangerous biome. No one's going to take anything. People take things when they're in convenient areas, pretty much. But even then, I'll say as the person who runs the server, most of the time when people tell me that someone stole something, it's just somewhere else, or they're not used to playing on a server that's active. So, like, when you join Path of Magic, if you leave a boat in the meadows and then you leave, it's going to be destroyed by Nex when you come back because the area is active and the Nex attack boats. They don't do that much damage, but players are used to logging out and then nothing happening in the area they're in. But on a server that has activity and other players walking by, it activates the area so time passes and that kind of thing. And so Tony, here I'll explain what's going on with the shield. As I mentioned, the bubble blocking system has a whole bunch of different things going on. So you can parry with tower shields in Path of Magic, and that's because when the bubble breaks, it does an AoE stagger to all monsters that are nearby you. Okay? I'll show you this in action. I just need to find something that won't kill me immediately. A 1-star goblin. I don't like that. I'm pretty sure that thing's gonna wreck me, but maybe I'll yeah, I don't even have any armor. Yeah, I should be smarter and not get wrecked by this goblin. Probably a good idea. But basically, yes, normally in vanilla, tower shields do not parry. That is correct. You cannot parry at all with a tower shield. It's literally not possible. Hey, okay, it did work. But in yeah, well this whole server works this way. Whether you customize it yourself or not, that's what EWP is. It's server-side modding. So if you join Path of Magic, right, you're going to have this experience. You will have the bubble blocking system. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, you can assume when I'm talking on this stream, I'm talking about Path of Magic mechanics. So, like, bringing up how vanilla works is often irrelevant. Because as you can see in Path of Magic, any block will give you a bubble. And then when you break that bubble, it will do an AoE parry that hurts the monster, knocks them back based on the block force. And you can see that this has a really high block force because this is a stronger than normal shield, right? Which is probably why I'm surviving, to be honest. Normally, the max level for an item is either 3 or 4. But in Path of Magic, there are mechanics to double the strength of your items. And that's kind of one of the ways that you work around the difficulty. Because, you know, I know that if you're listening to this and you've never played on the server, you'll think it's very absurd or very, like, powerful. And it is. But Palm is very, again, it's like Dark Souls. Like, people join in full flame metal with cheat swords and they die. Like, if you don't know what you're doing, it's very easy to think that you're alone or that the monster isn't gonna try and hurt you, and then something happens, right? Like, as I was mentioning earlier, there's certain monsters that have different behavior. So this is a normal fueling. You can tell by the way he's behaving. He attacks me once, and in certain situations, he'll attack me twice, right? Like this, see? He attacks twice, then he gets rolled back, but then, see, he runs away. And that's the normal vanilla behavior. Most of the time, they'll make one attempt, and then they'll make a second attempt, and then they will run in a circle around you. It's incredibly predictable. And once you learn that that is what's going on, you realize, oh, there's basically a loop that's happening, right? And that same loop is occurring, and all I need to do is exploit that loop, right? And sometimes they break that a little bit. Like you saw, he just attacked a third time, right? But for the most part, they'll try and attack you, and then if you're too close to them, then they're going to try and attack you straight again, right? But if you're a little bit away, then they'll do this running around thing. And I'm not dissing that. I love that they run around. I love how it makes the goblins, like, group up, you know? But if this was a tough goblin, it wouldn't work that way. Instead, the goblin would just attack me, attack me, attack me, attack me, attack me. And then there's also goblins. You can call them hunt mode. And they always know where you are, so they spawn and come right to you. And that's how night spawns in Valheim work. That's why whenever a skeleton spawns at night, it spawns with the exclamation mark and like already knows where you are. And then when you progress later on, the same thing happens around you at night with goblins and chard and all sorts of different things. Oh, I took the gamble. I survived though. I got lucky. Here, let me respond to Umer real quick. So Umer, basically when you join Path of Magic, the easiest way to start is to join and then just kind of explore down the path and find a spot that you feel interested in. In the beginning, you can just go into the bases that you find along the path, find a bed there, and then use them as checkpoints to explore. Once you do this for a little bit, you're going to get used to it. And then you're going to figure out, like, okay, do you want to build? Do you want to see how far down the path you can get? Because the path goes all the way to the Ashlands. So if you wanted, you could try and get all the way there and see if you can make it. You know, there's a whole bunch of different situations that you can get into. But in general, the loop is explore the path and look for a place that you can build something. Path of Magic may be a very challenging combat server, but ideally it encourages people to build. That's kind of what my hope has been. That's been what I try and get to happen. That makes sense. I think that there's a really cool, awesome thing that happens in Valheim when players don't necessarily identify as builders, but they end up getting into building anyway. And the more that happens, I'd say the better. Because these places are like some of this situation, that loop in Valheim, I'd say is one of the shining parts of it. But there's this sort of problem where people feel like they're not a builder, so they can't do it. They have insecurities, right? And that can be harsh. And it kind of stops people, especially when they look online and they see all these crazy, incredible builds. People can get intimidated. So for me, I didn't really build until I played the game Dragon Quest Builders 2. I had played Valheim multiple times. I think I'd done like 2 or 3 playthroughs, and I made like little shacks and stuff, just stuff like a little bit like this, maybe like a little bit bigger. That was how I played the game. Like I really didn't. I was in that position where I felt intimidated and felt like I couldn't build things. But over time, that changed, and the biggest catalyst for me was absolutely the game Dragon Quest Builders 2. That game is so good at making the player just build. It literally treats you, it's like, well, it's a kid's game, right? So it treats you like you need a lot of encouragement and support to start building. And so it's constantly like, you can do it, you can build the thing, everyone's a builder deep down inside, you can do it, everyone is. And it's like, I don't know, it was just, I played that game and it made me a builder in Valheim. Like, I know it's weird that Dragon Quest Builders 2, like a kid's failed Minecraft attempt, basically. I didn't even play you know how Yankee that game is? Its multiplayer is gated like halfway through the campaign. Yes, a Minecraft clone attempt gated their multiplayer to many hours into the campaign. It seems like an absurd decision from my perspective. So there's many things that, I'm not saying it's a perfect game, but I'm saying if you just play that game for like, even just like 5 hours, the story is such that it arms you to be a builder. That's what it's about. It's about like getting you to explore, find building things, and then build. And then like stuff comes and attacks your base and destroys it. And then no worries, because at the end of each mission, it just pops everything back and you don't actually lose anything. Because again, it's like a kid's game. And I don't know, that experience, it just opened things up for me in Valheim. So if you ever feel like you're a bit lost in Valheim, like you feel like, yeah, like it doesn't really, it's hard for you to get into building, or you feel like you're not good enough to build, or you feel insecure about it, I really recommend try out Dragon Quest Builders 2 just for a little bit. I know it's like kind of Minecrafty and pixely and like looks like a kid's game, but it's really interesting, and it has like blueprinting and all these other mechanics added in that are really interesting from like a quality of life perspective. And I personally think there is a lot that can be learned, even just from a Valheim server management perspective, purely from playing the game Dragon Quest Builders 2. It is a very interesting game because from my perspective, that game has the one thing that Valheim is, I'm not going to say missing, because Valheim is very much a sandbox. So anything that is missing, so to speak, it's like me saying there's no sandcastle in this on this beach. Like it's not the developer's fault. They put the sand there. I have to make the castle. You know what I mean? So like that, don't get too concerned about my comments. I really don't mean them towards Iron Gate. I'm like speaking about, they've given us these assets, so how can we distribute these assets and use them and make mechanics for them and all that kind of thing. That's my angle. That's what I'm thinking about. And back into the game for a moment. I need to bring some stuff to that spot. Like some pretty basic things. Like we're gonna need some food over there, and also I'm gonna need some, like, just a little bit of iron and some other things to make it easier to get started building. And I think the best way to do that is actually to take the Toon quest ship over there, and we can load it up with some metal and other things. I'm gonna steal just a little bit of food from this place here. And we're gonna go, yeah, this should be fine. Nothing too crazy. Because one of the earlier bases we built, the Iron Factory, is right over here. And it has the Toon, which is like a really powerful boat. In Path of Magic, there's there's 4 quest boats. And each quest boat has like a practical utility to it. I'll start from the beginning, which is the fishing raft. The fishing raft allows players to fish more easily. That's the idea. Basically, if you ever fished from a boat, it can be kind of a pain sometimes because the boat has these like edges, right? And so you have to grab the fish sort of, but it's harder to because of the boat. So with the raft, it's a little bit easier, but the raft is super slow, right? So we made it have motor constantly. And then some other things. It also sits down in the water a bit more and gives you like a rested bonus or something like that. So that way players can literally use it as a fishing raft. And then there's also some other ships. But before I get more into the other quest boats, let me address, so Umar, when you join, if you're not used to a no map world or a no portal world, basically, if you lose sight of the path, you're gonna die or get lost. Like, that's just how it is. It's very easy to get lost, and until you get very familiar with the area you're in, that will equal your death. Getting lost is you dying. Most of the time. Not always, but most of the time it is. So that's just kind of what you get used to. If you want to do hard mode on Path of Magic, then go off of the path. Join the server and go to the north, where there isn't a path. Or go to the east, where there's pretty much no path. And then you'll have like the very challenging version where it's really easy to get lost, and there's not a lot of other bases to keep you safe. But if you want to have a more convenient experience that is more approachable to a player who's never done no map, no portal, then you should stay along the path. And in Path of Magic, you don't progress by killing bosses. You progress by doing boss chests. And when you join, you can start going palm, and I think it's say palm question mark, and then you'll get all of these help commands, right? I need to add this to the runestone in the beginning. I keep forgetting to. And then you can read about certain mechanics by using this say palm question mark, and then it'll show you something. Let's say I want to learn about the nonsense chest or the quests. Actually, let's go with the quests because that's what I'm currently working on. So then you would go say quests question mark, and then you get a list of all the quests. Now I haven't adjusted this. Obviously, it needs to be split up into multiple different things. But conveniently, the 3 that we can see fully are the next 3 that I needed to talk about. We have multiple quest boats, right? I told you about the fishing raft. Then there is a carve called the Toon, a longship called the Nar, and a Drakkar called the Barden. And I feel like maybe I got that backwards, but I don't remember. Anyway, the point is that the Toon is a very fast ship. As I mentioned, every single one of these boats has a purpose that it is best at. So, normally the player gets a Viking ship, like this. This is a Viking ship, right? And then once they get the Viking ship, they don't care about the carve for the most part. Not always, but not in Path of Magic. Because in Path of Magic, you get quest boats that do things that no other ship can do. For example, right now, I have Windrun and Wisplight, but I don't have a Wisp equipped. How did that happen? That's because I'm in the quest boat, and the boats do various things. Some of them give you rested bonuses, some of them give you different buffs, but all of the quest boats are faster than their base version. So if I, for example, start to turn the sail up on the Toon, the moment you have any semblance of wind, you will move really quickly. And so I'm gonna stay in this whole area, but you can see, right? It's like a jet ski, basically. And this is the fastest ship in the game. So it's designed to allow players to have more mobility on Path of Magic, and it also has an increased storage space. If you see here, you have 16 slots instead of the typical 4. They also have a lot more health than normal, and they feature self-defense mechanisms. When the carve gets, or when a quest boat gets attacked and you aren't in it, it will spawn mistles, which will then target the enemies attacking the boat and destroy them. And it doesn't happen when you're there because it's just too powerful that way. It literally slaughters everything. So you can rely on a quest boat keeping itself alive. Even if you leave it in a dangerous area and you log out, for the most part, when players are active, the boat will defend itself by making mistles, and each quest boat has a huge degree more health than the traditional boats do. So this one, for example, has around 50,000 health, and then the other ones, which I mentioned earlier, right, the Nar and the Barden, have 100,000 health, and the Barden actually is invincible. So the Barden is the only, or the Drakkar, the quest Drakkar, is the only one that is completely invincible. So you can use it like a fortress because it won't get destroyed, it won't take any damage, you'll never need to repair it. However, you can still get killed on the invincible boat. So don't get too excited. It's not like it makes you able to sail anywhere. And the the Drakkar in general is really huge, so it's not as convenient. People tend to prefer the carves and the longship, just because of their size. It's easier to move them around. So now that I'm back here, let's see what we have going on. We have a decent amount of wood here, which I think is awesome. I'm gonna take a bunch of this wood, to be honest, and also some of the basic materials. Like we have some fancy woods too, right? And let's see, can we pile stuff up in here? Should I do that? Yeah, I guess so. Why not? This can be the cart that we take to the boat. And I may even put some more stuff in this boat. Who knows? Maybe there's a way that you can make custom storage crates that have loads of health, you know, or custom cargo crates. Who knows? Something like that could have occurred. But for now, I'm just going to bring things that are like full stacks of stuff that I know I need. So we're going to organize this by storing everything here, making this a little bit better. All right, and now what do we want to take? Well, certain things I've learned from experience. Having ooze bombs to be able to destroy stuff and mine it is genuinely useful. I use these up. It's good to have these, but they're available in the gobbled camps like plentifully. So I'm just gonna leave them because I'm trying to get a deeper sense of what is limiting. Like what resources, if you take them to a place, you know, you won't find them on Path of Magic. I need to learn more about the bottlenecks. So I'm not trying to take absolutely everything that I need. Instead, I'm going there once in the boat, and then I'll keep the boat kind of at the base of the area that I'm building in, and that'll have the starting materials that I'm gonna work with. And really, I just need some wood and some stone and some iron, I suppose, and maybe some surtling cores. Because I haven't done the motor progression yet. And I'm actually going to do that from this base. So we're going to be at this base for a while. It's going to be the opposite of the swamp base that I'm in right now. This place is dark and dreary, and I spent too long here. But the plains, it's all beautiful, well lit. It only rains half the time. You know what I mean? And the plains, I love it. It's so much cheaper. I don't know. There's something about the fighting and the goblins and the brightness of the plains, honestly. I think because of how dark the rest of the game is, I just automatically love the plains. There's just no way around it. I can't help it. It's just how I'm built. I love it. So I'm just going to go look at a couple different things in the base. May as well make sure that I don't forget anything major. Having some money would be good too. But I don't actually have that much here. I think we spent pretty much all of it on various different things. Hey! That's right, there's another razor here. And I got a crom at some point. And this is someone's spine snap. Yeah, that's Anders. I have some Fenring gear here from before. But I really want to use the bronze. So I'll probably go back to the bronze area and make another bronze set. Because it's like, it's so against my instinct. My instinct is to only use light armor. But I need to balance it, the heavy armor, and make it more enjoyable. And one of the things heavy armor does is increase your carry weight. It's like having two Mehenjords? I don't know how to pronounce it. The strength belt. Belt strength. That's what it's called. But now in Path of Magic, any heavy armor set you wear, as long as you have all three pieces and you block, you'll get the troll endurance thing, which will give you more carry weight for like 10 minutes. So you can use any heavy armor set to increase your survivability that way, and also outside of combat, make it easier to get the things that you need to get, let's say. Stay alive for that buff. So let's just look through here. I guess probably I should take... No, there are goblin camps. I don't need any of that stuff. They're really easy to get. I guess really the only thing I'll need is surtling cores. But even surtling cores, I think we'll be able to get them from... Yeah, we'll probably be able to get the surtling cores from the goblin camps, because I added some events to happen. I'm just looking through here and trying to remember, is there anything else that I would really, like, genuinely need that I won't be able to get there? I don't really think so. It's pretty much just metal. I need some iron, and I need some wood and some stone to get started. But aside from that, this is probably solid, to be honest. I don't think I really need to worry about much more here. Let's see. We had some ore. It looks like most of the ore has been smelted. So I think we'll just be good with our 1 stack of iron. I should probably take some... Don't have any copper. But we'll be able to get things by killing goblins, because they drop different kinds of metal scraps when you kill them inside of a goblin camp. So we'll get copper, bronze, and tin. The thing is, we won't be able to smelt it without any surtling cores. So I guess I will need just at least to be able to make 1 kiln, right? And then also it would probably be smart, right, to make sure that I can also make a forge. But I don't think I'll be able to make a forge until I make a kiln. And that's fine. I just need to make sure that, like, I do bring the true things that I need. I don't need to have absolutely everything, but the last thing I want is that abyssal dagger. It's only level 1, but honestly, that's better than what I'm used to. I like having a dagger. There's something about the sword that it's like a little bit too slow, so in certain situations it just doesn't work for me. So now we're just gonna load our ship up here, and I don't think I'm even gonna need to do anything too gnarly, to be honest, because if we just look around, yeah, if we don't take that much stuff there in the first place, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna need to do much custom storage crate. I tend to enjoy putting too many things in a ship, sailing it somewhere, and losing half of it. Seems to be my fate. But in this case, we're not sailing very far at all. It's actually like, it's further to run where I was than it is to sail. It's incredibly close sailing, I guess. Yeah, no ore. There's nothing just lying around here, right? Some stone. Could take some stone to get started. Yeah, why not? And then some food. We'll put a little bit more food in here, but this looks solid. Let's see, these... Do we need the serpent meat here? Yeah, what's this from? Is that just already in the boat? Ah, yeah, it must have already been in there. How do I loot it? Ah, serpent meat is so bloody heavy. I gotta be very close to the dock here. There we go, nice. Alright, I'm just gonna put the serpent meat in this cart. Yeah, I know that on normal normal Valheim, serpent meat is a delicacy, something very special. On Palm, as you probably noticed, there are serpents everywhere. So there's actually a lot of situations where you'll just have so much serpent meat that you don't even worry about it anymore. Let's see, what do we have an abundance of? Oh, we have plenty of these. I'll just take some of the things we have a lot of. I don't need to like drain all the resources here. Didn't get much stamina food in the other place, so it's probably good. Alright, I think we're ready to get going. So we're gonna go on the shortest sailing adventure ever. And you'll also see a little bit about what I was talking about earlier with these crazy quest boats. But in the meantime, I can talk a little bit about no map, no portal, and losing one's stuff. Because it is very, very easy to lose your stuff. If you play Palm like normal Valheim, you're going to get schooled very quickly that it's less predictable on Path of Magic. So when you're on Palm, if you're not in the meadows, you're in danger. Like, you need to understand that there are so many changes to the mechanics. Even though you didn't download any mods that change them, it doesn't matter. This is a EWP server, right? There are so many changes that I can't even explain them all. There's over 3,600 different adjustments and changes to things. And things are changed every day, and I add more and adjust things. It is a constant occurrence, let's say. So you're going to learn about mechanics continuously as you play on Path of Magic, and that's part of the experience. The main thing is to learn to not lose sight of landmarks, because if you go too deep into an area on no map, no portal mode, sometimes you can lose your stuff and like never get it back. But that is possible. But I will say from personal experience, like, I've been playing on this seed for almost a year and a half. I've gotten lost hundreds of times, died hundreds of times, and you're usually not as lost as you feel like you are. And I've also had situations where, like, I've helped players, and then I've come to find out that, like, the more lost the player tells me they are, the more likely that they're running in a circle and they're actually pretty close to where they came from. And, like, I've had people just they're, like, completely convinced that they're on the other side of the world. There's no way for them to get their body back. And, like, it's literally the backyard of their base, and they're just, like, lost. It's actually pretty comical, to be honest, because when I would first play on no map, no portal mode, I had that experience a lot, and I believed myself. But now that I've seen other people, it's like, yeah, you can put people on the server, and believe it or not, they get lost in the same places. So when people get lost, they show up in similar spots. And depending on where you are on Palm, it can be really easy to get lost, or it could be more challenging. It really depends on the situation and the part of the game that you are currently playing in. For example, if you stay near the path, there's always bases. You can stray away from it, but even if you stray off the path, you're probably gonna, like, find a dock that someone built, and then that's gonna be able to be used as a landmark. But if you go in, like, a Dverger tunnel, which is a place that takes you to faraway lands, or if you go really far down the path, it changes. If you go off of it, you're in the wild, and if you get lost, like, who knows where you are. And on Palm, that's just kind of how it is. Like, you view it as making a treasure chest. Whenever I go out, I just assume I'm gonna lose what I get, basically. And your progression is kind of based on the things that you manage to keep at your base until you manage to not get lost a lot. But I personally find that act of being able to get lost, it's critical. It's so important to the long-term enjoyment of the experience here. And it's definitely something that I guess I recommend, I recommend you get lost a couple times. So now that I've babbled about mechanics for a while, I'm happy to move on. And basically I'll talk a little bit oh, god dang. There's always more mechanics happening around me to talk about. I'm just going to ignore that for now. But this spot is really cool, and I was super inspired yesterday. I don't know what came over me, but I spent like all day. I did the stream. I went for like 3 hours. I stopped for a bit, did some other in real life stuff, and then I just went ham and developed a bunch of stuff and got all inspired about what to do in this live stream series. And I want to make like the next while about this whole area and building this like tower area here. And I was looking at all these different images of different towers around the world, and it was very cool to see that there are some things that are quite similar to what I had in mind. And I really like building with like circles and spirals. So I'm gonna combine like this corner area with some kind of spiral design that makes a tower, but like has a dock going from there and up here, up there, and like a conveyor belt path. So you can go to the dock and like toss your black metal and marble like scraps and stone from raiding goblin camps with the water access, and then put it on the conveyor, and then it'll take it all the way up into the tower, and then there'll be like smelting and that kind of thing. And there's a couple stages I have in mind. So I haven't even gotten motor stuff yet. I can't smelt black metal. So I'm gonna start the tower before I can do black metal and get it like made basically, and then go do the motor stuff as an adventure to spice it up when I've been in the plains for a while. And that's like the general sense of what I'm gonna be doing here. So 1 second, there was a question, I think. Let me just bait this guy for a moment. There we go. Yeah, you can use ether. That's fine. Just keep in mind, if you see a boss stone, if you try and get the boss ability, sometimes the boss stone will eat the trophy. There's a lot of that kind of thing on Path of Magic. Like a lot of things in Valheim, you're used to doing it once and never having to do it again. But in Palm, you have to do things like, it's more like an MMO. So it's not as grindy as an MMO, but yeah, people have been saying that it is like more like that. And it's true, it is definitely. Like, in order to make the game last longer, you have to find ways to make things happen multiple times and like make the player have reasons to get things more than once. And the way that I handle that is by adding mechanics that make things disappear on the player as they use them, but infrequently. Well, I say infrequently, but what do I know? Like, let's say that you smelt 1,000 metal. You're gonna lose a couple kilns and smelters in the process of doing that. So let's see if I can actually test something. So one of the mechanics I added was that when you fight enemies in the plains, there's special locations that have extra loot if you kill the enemy inside of a certain area. So here, for example, we are inside of a Stonehenge. And if you kill goblin berserkers inside of the Stonehenge, then there's an increased loot chance. And also, also, they have a chance to respawn another one. So the idea is it's sort of like to replicate some kind of like arena-like wave combat, but in a simplified way. So I don't have like some wave spawning system. Instead, when you kill the enemy, it rolls a chance to respawn the enemy on a delay. So anywhere from 10 seconds later to 10 minutes later, that enemy type can show up again. So in this case, it wouldn't show up as an empowered, tough goblin pack leader, which is like a more powerful than normal 2-star goblin berserker. Instead, it would just show up as a goblin berserker, maybe like a 1 or 2-star goblin berserker. It won't show up as empowered tough. Empowered tough enemies are only created when enemies in palm kill other things. So when a goblin kills a deer, it gets stronger. It's like it gets experience and levels up. And when a Chard kills a Diverger, the same thing can happen. Or when Seekers kill hares, all of these cause the monster to level up as if they're getting experience. And the first time it levels up, it'll become tough. And it's like it gets brave. It stops running away from you. And, well, in this case, he is running away, right? That's something different. I'm talking about the circling running away thing. That bastard. He just ran off like that. What are you gonna do? Go eat a deer and then get fully healed and then just come back? Like, I'm not into that. I'm having a hard enough time not getting killed by this guy. But for us to get the extra stuff, let me rephrase. For us to get the chance for extra stuff to use for building, he has to die inside this thing, basically. So now let's see if he'll come back here. I think we've enticed him back. It looks like he doesn't want to run away from me anymore. He just needed a little break from being on fire, I guess. You know, I've actually never fought in this kind of ring like this. I think I've just fought like the normal berserkers. It's kind of cool to fight a really strong one. Ooh, that didn't work. Yeah, you have to be careful with that. I'm gonna call it duds for realism, but I don't know why that happens sometimes. But yeah, it's like the arrow can explode where it's created instead of where it's destroyed, which is basically like your own fire arrow blowing up in your face. So let's see what happened here. Oh, what a perfect illustration of the mechanics. Look at this. So because it's a 2-star equivalent, you get loads of drops if you get lucky and they drop. And because it dropped in this area, let's see, what did we get? We got 6 black metal, almost 45 Growston. Oh no, sorry, we got 50 Growston, 50 stone, black marble, and this spread so far just from killing that one enemy. You see what I'm saying? Honestly, I think it's pretty cool. I know, of course I think it's cool. I've been working on these things and I was very inspired about it last night. So, you know, I'm still quite biased. So I'm just going to take this stuff over to our nonsense chest over here. And just to be clear, you don't have to kill things in the location. Like, you just get better stuff if you do. So when you kill a goblin in the plains, you're still gonna get like a different spread of loot. But when you kill a goblin in the plains at a goblin camp, you'll get more chances for loot. And also, as you kill the goblin, they will respawn on that timer, right? And it doesn't happen every single time, okay? It's not like they respawn immediately or something like that. It happens sort of slowly, if that makes sense. So the idea is that as you kill things, things replenish themselves, but at a rate that is lower than what you're killing. So that way you can eventually overwhelm them and everything will stop respawning. But before that point, you can fight a bunch of things and you can, as you're killing things, some things will start coming back. And if you take too long, then like a lot of stuff will come back and you won't be able to clear the goblin camp and activate that other event, right? So that's the idea here. And give me a moment. Why did that run out so quickly? Must have set something on fire. I'm just gonna sit here, and I will be right back. I'm just gonna use the bathroom. And then when I get back, I think we can probably start doing some basic framing here. I'm gonna start getting the shape going. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about some of the inspirations for this, show you some imagery. We'll see. We're gonna get building. All right, I am back. Welcome, welcome. And I am somehow alive. How peculiar. So, what I'm going to start off with now, that I feel more inspired, is I'm going to show you some imagery of kind of what I'm going for. So, let's look at some Google things here. Give me a moment. I'm going to set this up. Okay, so I really enjoy those sort of, I don't know if they're called Fibonacci sequences. I'm not really sure, but I'm not going for exactly these designs. But do you see how there's this spiraling where there's this external area? Like, this is a better illustration of it here. Sort of what I want to do is have there be a spiraling ramp in the sort of Fibonacci spiral. Am I using the right term there? Fibonacci spiral. Sorry, I know I'm not spelling that right. Yeah, it is a Fibonacci spiral. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so this kind of stuff. I love this kind of thing. So this is going to be the floor plan, so to speak. So the tower, I'm going to make it so it's sort of like, it's not going to be true Fibonacci, if that makes sense. It's going to be more like this. Let's open up paint here. You know, I'm fancy. I use paint.net. You know, I'm a big boy now. So we got 10. Is that good? Yeah, there we go. Nice, nice. That's what we want. So a normal Fibonacci spiral is kind of like, it gets exponentially more, right? That's really bad, but you get the idea. Instead of doing it like that for me, which is more like what it would be, I'm going to do the external part, the path, going up as like true Fibonacci style. But then once it gets closer, it's going to become a normal circle like this. I know this is a very, very loose illustration, so bear with me. Bear with me. But basically, the tower part of the design is going to be here. And then there'll be like an entrance. And then the path will go down alongside the mountain, so to speak. That's what I'm going for. So it won't necessarily look like that straight away, but I'm going to incorporate this element, that general shape. Like I found that when I build in Valheim... Uh-oh. I heard something. I think I'm alright, though. When I build in Valheim, it works well for me to have a shape in mind, a 2D shape, and then to sort of then make that 3D, if that makes sense. That really helps me. So like even if you just build like with a basic like wood beam design or something, just a pattern on the floor, sometimes it's easier to then extrapolate that out to be a full house. But this is actually, like, that is awesome. I'm gonna look at that for a moment. This here, can we get a bigger image? Nah. I guess I have to do it this way, right? How do we do it? Open a new tab. Is this how we look at it directly? Yeah, thank you. There we go. So this is very similar to what I'm going for, but obviously in Valheim, I mean, you'll never get curves like this. But you see how it makes like a tower? I'm not going to have quite the seashell look that is here, but that's kind of what I'm going for. The spiraling, once it's bigger in the bottom area, is going to be the pathing up the mountain into the tower. And then I'm going to use the region there. Like if I take a second to take some risks here and I look outside, you see I'm at the top of this kind of peak, this mountain, right? So I can use that area as the longer legs of the end of the spiral. And then as the spiral gets tighter, it comes up here and becomes the tower, right? So I can also then use the fact that this is terrain to create more illusions that the tower is bigger than it actually is. Because you can kind of build the stone down into the mountain a bit, and then it makes it look really tall and imposing, even though it's actually just on the top of a hill, right? So we're going to be using that trick as well. But this is a great inspiration image. So I think I'm gonna copy this and then go into Discord real quick, and then go into, I guess, just game design, no, screenshots. How should I do this? Yeah, I'll just do this. I'll just label it lab rat building inspiration images, and then boom. There we go. I'm just going to spam images from this project that really get some aspect of what I'm going for here. So what captures the spiral well? Honestly, that's kind of interesting. Obviously, they're all quite similar. I like this. That's pretty simple. So let's see, we can do it this way, just do this. Boom. Now, let's see. There were a couple buildings, because keep in mind, this is just this is just like inspiration. It isn't fully like doable because we have to work with squares in Valheim, and not even little squares. We have to work with big squares, right? So this one looks pretty useful, to be honest. This here, these look nice. They look like they're genuinely useful. Which one is bigger? This one's bigger. Okay. Oh wait, no, I did it the wrong way. Right click, open a new tab. There we go. Then you get the bigger one. And we're just gonna keep adding these reference images here. All right. And then also some actual buildings. And also, I apologize if I use some kind of religious icon that is of something you care about and I don't know what it is. I think all these things are very beautiful, but I don't necessarily know what they refer to. So I understand that sometimes one has to be, yeah, particular. Like in certain cultures, like in Islam, for example, you shouldn't like depict people ever. So that's why, like, I'm not saying this is Islamic. I think I have no idea. Let's see, what is it? This is. Okay, yeah. So this is a Christian church, yeah. But it's more actually. This is more Islamic in design, if that makes sense. Because in Islam, you don't ever depict faces. They use geometric art because it's like part of the culture that like you shouldn't make symbols of things. So they do it through murals and using like squares and symmetry of things instead of symbolizing and idolizing figures, if that makes sense. So in that way, I find it really useful to look at like Islamic mosaic because they have incredible like patterns and tiles, and there's this intricacy to Islamic design that is just like, it's very useful from a shape and symmetry perspective. And yeah, I apologize because I didn't mean to say that this is an Islamic temple. I was just saying that in general, the style of focusing on geometry and shapes is more Islamic than Christian. Christian design tends to focus more on imposing figures and bringing grandness. So in Christian design, you see more like for example, Jesus statues. This is like a classic one, right? You'll see this kind of thing, whereas in Islam, you don't see this kind of thing. That's all I'm talking about. I'm not saying like one is good or whatever. Like, you know, I'm not saying anything. I'm just finding inspiration imagery. That's all. But I lived in Saudi Arabia, so I've lived in Islamic countries. So like I've lived in Buddhist countries, Islamic countries, and Christian countries. So I've seen a lot of different places, and it's really cool seeing how over history, like you see a lot of different things repeating, right? So for me, this is like, I'm not trying to go with this pointiness, really. I'm trying to go for something more towery. Like this looks very, to me, this looks very Mayan. This does. Now, I kind of like that, but it doesn't have the spiral elements that I'm looking for. I saw a building earlier that really, it just, where was it, though? I think maybe it was Spiral Tower? I think, maybe? Yeah, because the thing I gotta figure out is, like, what do I want to do for the outline, right? Because I did an interview with Dakar, who builds, like, really awesome stuff, and he said that one of the most important things is to figure out your outline or your perimeter, right? So, in this case, for example, if I like, get rid of this, oh no, he didn't say outline, he said the silhouette, right? So let's say we have a house, like, that is the house's silhouette, or an arrow, whatever, you know what I mean? This is the horizon. This is the silhouette. And basically what he was describing is that this everything inside is detail, and you don't care about that. You shouldn't get distracted by it in the beginning. You should focus on making beautiful drawings of the silhouette you have in mind, right? And he didn't really say it that way, but he basically explained that you focus on the frame and the external silhouette and the edges, and then you can add detail and intricacy later on. So what I'm looking for is like specifically the top half of the tower. I'm trying to find something that I feel like would be more viable in Valheim, because I have to deal with the reality of like the stairs in Valheim, and I don't build with Gizmo, so there's only certain things. And personally, I don't know. I know Gizmo's awesome. I'm not trying to diss Gizmo, but I like having more constraints. I find that I don't do as well when I have total freedom. It's like I like that I can only pick 16 different rotations. When I can suddenly pick 360 rotations, I feel, I don't know. Like, I get decision fatigue, if that makes sense. So it's not that I don't like it. Like, it's genuinely useful. But it's more like, it's also like when you build with Gizmo, you have to then keep in mind that if anyone breaks something, or if something breaks, only players who have Gizmo can repair. Like, actually, oh, this is perfect, because this hut illustrates this. I don't know if you noticed, but earlier, right, when I had the workbench, I was trying to align the workbench with the wall, and I couldn't, right? So I know that whoever built this uses Gizmo, right? And, like, there's nothing wrong with that. It gives you a huge degree of control. But for me, like, I'm a person who prefers simplicity to create complexity. I don't like starting with complexity. Yeah, 8 rotations. Yeah, good point. Good point. That's even better. Although, I mean, I'm not saying it's not useful. Don't get me wrong. Like, I get it. When people enjoy building, like, really, like, that is a huge thing. It adds a huge degree of depth. Especially also, like, other stuff, like using different things that you can't normally build with. Like, for example, if I go over here and I say goblin mode, right? Then boom, we're gonna get some nonsense happening, and suddenly we live in a goblin shack, right? So it's really interesting for people how they can do these sorts of things. They tend to enjoy having more building options. So I don't in any way mean to dismiss that. It is genuinely useful. Gizmo is really useful, and it's a great mod, honestly. But yeah, you can build goblin stuff on Path of Magic, by the way. I don't know if I've talked that much about that. So now let's see. I saw an image that was quite simple, because these are all like skyscraper styles. That's a little bit. Yeah, see, this is more similar to what I'm going for. So maybe I should add ancient, because these are all kind of too modern, right? Oh, yeah, here we go. Immediately blocky. Interesting, interesting. Oh, Jake says, well, I'm up. I guess I'm going to go fight some goblins and see what this patch is like. Awesome. I hope you enjoy. I made I don't know if the chances are like too common or not common enough, but basically there should be events that occur when you kill the last goblin in a goblin camp. But not every time. Maybe half the time something happens. And while you're trying to kill the goblins, other things will actually destroy, like they'll show up. So it's not just killing the last one. Stuff also happens while you're fighting them, right? It looks like this is quite the... Okay, so there's like a couple famous ancient spiral towers, huh? I mean, these look like they're mostly like 2 different places. Yeah, see, this is kind of more what I was imagining, like something very simple. That does look cool though. Although I'm not trying to get. See, this is a what I would call like a. It's almost like a linear spiral, and I'm not really going for that. I want like a circular tower that has a base around it that has the spiraling element, if that makes any sense. So these for me actually aren't what I'm going for. They're okay. It's more like this. You see how this has? This is great actually. This illustrates what I'm going for here. So this part here, you see how it has that circular part, right? But then underneath that, so what I'm trying to do is make the central tower be circular. But then there's a wall, basically, that includes a staircase and a conveyor belt, and that follows the Fibonacci pattern and spirals all the way down to the dock at the base of the area that I've been showing in the stream. And I have an idea. Instead of tower, let's search for spiral castle. Wow, okay. I didn't know Spiral Castle was so fantasy themed. I like how everything else I've looked for has been mostly in real life, but then suddenly making it be a castle instead, you see a lot of spiral images. I guess what is Spiral Castle? It's music. Ah, okay, that makes sense. Most of what I'm seeing is related to whatever band that is. I would guess some kind of metal. That would be my assumption. Still not really seeing. There's this one image of a castle, I swear I saw. Oh, hey, this is more like what I'm talking about. Except, you see how the spiral continues here like a seashell? Just imagine it was just one cylinder tower right here. You know? Using Bing AI. That's cool. That's a good... Can I just... I haven't used any of the image generator ones recently. I do like using AI, though. I use ChatGPT a lot. That's like what my other job is, basically. I use ChatGPT to make courses that I don't know things about for people in Los Angeles. But it works, and I learn a lot by doing it. And it's funny, because before ChatGPT... Like one of the we had to write the things ourselves, and it was like really low quality. So the AI actually helped. It helped us like make better things. I think. Oh, that's interesting. Hey, that's really cool. I saw this earlier. What's this? Hey, it's in Czechstan. Or Czech? I don't know. How do I say... Is Czechstan... Is that what it used to be? I don't know how to pronounce... Huh. Well, maybe someone will tell me. But it's very beautiful. This is simple. This is kind of... This is a good illustration here. Let's go with this one. Thank you, Richard Tom... Oh, man. I'm so bad with Northern European names. I'm sorry. It's funny, too, because, like, genetically, I look kind of like that. But I just haven't been in that area in my life. Been everywhere else, right? So I think we got some decent inspiration here. I can get back into the game. And what I'm going for here is go back to scene. And so, welcome. Thank you for the follows, by the way. Thank you. I see I couldn't, it wasn't showing any of the chat, so now it's all showing up. So what I want to do now is kind of help get some of these elements, just very basic things, to show up. So the first thing we need is to go down and acquire some of that wood from our tune. And I'm sort of running down what I'm hypothesizing will become the spiral sort of area. I don't know how this is gonna go, because I'm not kind of trying to do like a whole bunch of terrain stuff. It's mostly gonna be from building things. But let's see, I guess I put these away. 1, 355. I could still hold a little more. There we go. Alright, we're going to use this wood, and I'm not going to get committed into some kind of frame or anything. Again, I'm basically going to start with a two-dimensional shape, right? Kind of like that Fibonacci spiral thing. And all I know is the exact center is this barrel. Okay? That's why I put the barrel here. I looked at the zones, and I'm testing a hypothesis that if I place the center on the corner of 4 zones, that it will make the base less laggy to players as they enter by staggering when the things get loaded. But this also could cause a bunch of some other issue. I don't even know, to be honest. We'll see what happens. I know with locations, you have to place them in the center of the zones. But I am theorizing that maybe in this situation, it's the opposite. So let's just get the basic shape sort of situated here. So we're just going to get something simple going on. I don't have to perfectly place it. Just place it well enough that we can make a little grid here so that we can get sort of the Fibonacci part down. Because it's going to go in a spiral, but it needs a circular element. So this part, obviously, is already prepped to be a more circular element, right? There's this part up here. Not sure what to do about that. And then here, we would need to start expanding out, right? So it would start going over here and then around. But then this part is quite tight. You see? So it's almost like I have to kind of run in a way that follows the pattern. And this, I think, will become like a staircase. So maybe even here, it could be almost linear. Or maybe it goes there and then does a little turn and then over there. Maybe it turns like twice on the way up here. And it keeps going up. So let's imagine, for example, that that's what's going on. So I'm going to build a workbench real quick so I can actually just make some sort of visual placeholders here. Nothing too fancy. We're going to go for... There we go. Trying to imagine it wraps around there. That loosely works. Oh, you posted there? Let's see. I'll check it out. So yeah, it did some spiraling in the AI thing. And honestly, dude, this is great. Actually, no, this is awesome. I know the AI makes some weirdness. It's not a perfect spiral, but I like these elements. This top part, the squareness of it. That I feel like is cool. I like how cut it looks. And in this case, obviously in Valheim, we can't have something wrap around that much. But aside from the stair part, the profile here is nice. I like it. Thank you. I genuinely appreciate that. Alright, so I'm gonna need to tilt things at different points, but for now, let's kind of imagine that there's gonna be stairs. So the stairs obviously will have to follow some kind of pattern where there are stairs and then it's flat. Maybe it's like 1 stair, 2 flat, 1 stair, 2 flat. I have to like calculate what that is somehow. But for now, I'm not gonna worry too much about that. I'm just trying to get this kind of pattern, a better sense of it. So what I'm gonna do is just get rid of this actually. Can I get away with continuing here into this rock? Let's see. Not fast enough. Hey, there we go. I was fast enough that time. No, I wasn't. There we go. So in general, when you follow curved designs, you have to understand there is no curving, right? Because it's a game made of triangles. So we'll have to simplify the curve into some kind of angle here, right? And this is where the spacing of things, I'm gonna have to like sit down with some graph paper basically, because the further the curve goes, the less, how do I explain it? The less acute the angle, it's gonna look straighter and straighter and straighter the further away from the center tower it is. And then as it gets closer to the center tower, it'll sort of wrap around, right? And I can already tell that like this area, the curve and coming up here, this will work. But then the problem is that at this point, it's too tight. You see what I'm saying? This area breaks the pattern. So I have to figure out how to lay down the pattern while looking at it like sort of like this basically. So I guess I could follow like a really basic format and just kind of hope for the best here. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do for a moment. So let's see how this works. We're going to use this as a center point. And then I'm going to try like and stick close to the ground here. But we're going to go with, let's just use a Fibonacci sequence. I looked at these screenshots earlier. So supposedly it's what? 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. But those are the areas of the squares created. So I think I'm just gonna wing it. I'm not that fancy, to be honest. Let's see, is anyone online? Yeah. No sleeping. No sleep. That's fine. Honestly, I basically never sleep on the server. I just accept that it's night. I don't even like regard the nighttime as a thing, even though more enemies spawn. I think one of the reasons for that though is because on Palm, we have the luxury of basically, well, there's no raids, which is awesome. So I guess what do? I guess, what if I triple it each time? Is that how this works? No, double it each time. Maybe that'll work. Oh, this can get out of hand really quickly. We'll see though. I think, oh, nope. Wrong pieces. Sorry, I know it's quite dark here, but basically, I'm gonna turn it once and double it. And I think that'll cause a Fibonacci. I don't remember exactly how it works, but basically start with 1, turn, 1, 2, turn, 1, 2, 3, turn. Oh, no, I'm just adding 1. I need to double it, so it's 4. Yeah. And this should get out of hand, right? But this will help kind of determine where things need to be. And I'm totally going to guess in the wrong place. I'm not building a frame. I'm building a visual representation of this kind of spiral, right? So we have 1, 2, 4, and then now it needs to be 8. And then you see how quickly it'll start expanding, even though we're still only tilting it by 1 turn. So I might have to redo it and tilt it by 2 turns, right? Because if we think about how far this would go, like here we have 3. Oh, sorry. I can't aim, apparently. Ah, and I'm still going into the UI like a crazy fool. Haha, there we go. So 4, but this needs to be 8, right? So I have a feeling this is too expansive. It goes too far here. But we'll see. This is exactly what I have to basically, like, if I spend more time doing this now, then when I actually take the time and build the building, it'll have a more powerful feeling. And I'm in no rush, really. No rush at all. So we have 3. We need 5 more pieces. 1, and then 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. Let's give it a little brace here. And so, yeah, I can already tell the math for this doesn't work out. So let's redo this, but instead of tilting it once, we're going to tilt it twice, right? And maybe that'll get something closer to what we want. Because it's all about figuring out that ratio of the center point, pretty much. Once you have that, it's not very hard to design something interesting. You just have to stick to the flow of that geometry, right? So in this case, we're going to change our pattern. It was 1 and then 1 tilt. Now it's going to be 2 tilts, okay? So 1, 2 tilts, and now we do 2 pieces. 2 tilts, and now we do 4 pieces, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we go. Nice, nice. Yeah, this looks much more appropriate, to be honest. I think it's gonna meet the shape. Well, it's certainly gonna meet the shape better than the previous situation would. So we're gonna need to go up a bunch here, though. I don't know what to do about this kind of area here. There's probably some way to integrate this terrain into giving support in the room or in the tower. I'm not sure. I'm not going for like a super huge tower. I'm not trying to make the biggest tower ever. I'm just trying to make something that looks really cool and is fun, and then I can like upgrade over time and build conveyors and stuff. You know, I gotta find ways to build conveyors apparently. So 4, now we're tilting twice, right? 1, 2, and we're doing 8. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. But I need to go down here because this isn't going to work. I'm going to lose lose the stability. So we're going to go into the bottom there. Boom. There we go. Now, we just needed one more piece that way, right? Ugh. As I'm falling. What a fool. 2, 4, 6. Oh no, we needed 2 more pieces, huh? Alright, alright, alright. Let's make a little step here. There we go. I don't have to be so foolish. And let's copy that. Get rid of that. Now we need 1, 2. Now we tilt again. 1, 2. But even this time, it's going too far, right? But now I know the basic ratio, right? Because it's going to extend that way. This shape, I think the ratio's right. It's just the initial start of this needs to be rotated, right? Because we can keep this same ratio here, but turn it. You see what I'm saying? And then it'll better meet the terrain. Because basically what we're doing is we're trying to figure out the exact shape for a giant kind of Fibonacci spiral, and then figure out how we can get it to closest fit onto this piece of terrain. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we're gonna be able to do that. And probably what I'll do is for the tighter part of the tower, it'll have 2 tilts. But then we'll get to a certain point, and then it'll start having 1 tilt. So when the staircase... Oh, hello, Odin. What are you gonna do to me? Nothing. Alright. So when you get to the staircase part, it'll go more, like, further away, and the ratio of this will be, let's say, adjusted, right? So let me make sure that I actually have this right before I take it apart and turn it, right? We have 1 piece, and then it should be 2, and then 4, and then this area should be 8. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yep. And then the next one would be 16, and then 32, and then... So you see how it gets out of control really, really quickly. So it needs to go down that way. And it's about to become more out of control, and I need some help visualizing it. Hey, hello teens. I hope you're doing well. Teens is one of the people who's been playing on the server since the very, very beginning. It's been over a year, so I'm always happy to see when she's hanging out and helping people with stuff. It's really cool. Also, some of the other players like Pan and Star and these people, they've been around for a long time. Real veterans, so to speak. So I can't really do too much here. In this case, honestly, if I was smart, I would be doing this with iron beams and like a forge or something, but I'm not. So it's harder for me to imagine exactly how it's gonna be. But when I actually build this, it will have to be done with iron, because that gives you so much more control over how far things can go, right? So we see we have 1, 2, and then 4, and then 8, and it goes out like that. How do we want to manage it? Because I got to try and guess now how far I need to tilt it, right? Because you can imagine this is the starting point. So if I do the same thing but like this, it'll be tilted a little bit. But if I do the same thing but starting over here, then it'll be tilted a lot, right? And it's kind of hard to imagine sometimes, because just a little change to the beginning of the pattern can have huge ramifications for how far the rest of it goes. So in this case, not really sure. Oh, look at that. It's now nighttime is over, but it doesn't even matter because it's now misty. Whatever. All good, all good. I like my little goblin hut here. How far do we think this needs to go? I feel like it's like 45 degrees, but I'm really just winging it there. I don't know. I'm gonna guess 45. Yeah, let's see. So this would be 90. I think that's too much. I think it's just 2 turns of the initial piece. So now let's change the rest of the stuff here. And now that I think about it, I should actually build a kiln, or not a kiln, a smelter. Well, I guess I need a kiln first, don't I? 'Cause I didn't bring any coal. That's okay. So we're gonna deposit all of this nonsense here. I can't even equip that anymore. So let's just clear the inventory up. I'm gonna go down here real quick and grab something. But before I do that, let's get a rested buff. I also seem lucky today. It's 6:20 and my internet didn't crash. Really cool. I started waking up really early to be able to do these streams, because the internet would crash at 6 a.m. But today it survived, and yesterday it survived. And I think the day before it also survived. It was just the first day this week that at like 5:30 or something like that it crashed. So now I'm going down to the tune, because there is some metal and some surtling cores there. So I do have enough to make 30. I think I brought 1 stack of iron, right? So I can make, yeah, I could make 30 of the wood iron beams, which is, I mean, that's enough to get started. You know what I'm saying? Can I carry it? I can even carry it. That's a true blessing right there. All right. And I don't have any ore, but that's okay. Don't really need this other stuff, at least not yet, but I'll come back and get it later. But for now, we're just gonna take all of this back up to the top. And hey, is the mist? And okay. I was gonna say, you know, it's been a while since I fought something, and I've just been like building noisily at the top of this hill, and nothing has shown up, which is kind of odd. Let's see, how do you feel about my empowered shield? Hey, yeah, sucker. I guess I'm the sucker. I'll shut up for a moment so this fueling doesn't destroy me. The glory of empowered bronze. Let's see, what did he give me? Black metal. Alright, I should be able to actually make a kiln thing now, because I have the stuff with me. It was in the tune, but it was too far away. So it basically didn't matter that it was in the tune. Ooh! That poison's gonna kill me, isn't it? Oh, maybe I'll be able to heal by killing him? Nah, no luck. You don't always get the heal, so in this case, I didn't get it. So I'm gonna die. Tragic. That's okay. So close. There's something about knowing that you're about to get poisoned. It puts you in this case where you're like, oh, I just gotta accept my fate. But sometimes I want to struggle and resist it. You know what I mean? Not in this case though. I've gotten pretty good at accepting when I'm gonna die. Usually I just assume I'm gonna die. I used to die more often, to be honest. Now I can like tolerate a lot more nonsense apparently. Maybe because I've done it so much that I've gotten used to it. Here we go. Let's get our little rested buff here. So I need to use the iron metal beams to get the extended part. But I don't need the extended part to show up until after it clips through the terrain. Because I only have 30, right? And this is what I mean. Like, I like working with constraints. It feels, for me, less... I didn't even get the rested buff. Whatever. Screw this. Been ripped off. It feels less constricting to me than when I have a lot of options available. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the wooden things to like go through this stone and then get the stability of that and then start using the iron ones and try and actually get a sense for where this spiral needs to go. Because once I get the spiral placed, that's like sort of the most challenging part, because everything else is like based on just like filling it up, right? Oh no, I'd have to make a forge, and I don't have the stuff to make a forge because I need to get some copper, so that's why I needed to make the kiln thing, right? Yeah. All right. One. Certain. Wait, what did I do? No, there is 5 here. Okay, I just can't tell that there's 5 for some reason. All right, cool. We're gonna go with... I don't have any coal. There's no coal, right? No coal in here? Tar from earlier, some metal, stone, other stuff. No coal. Okay, cool. That's fine. So that means I'm starting off with a kiln. And while I'm doing stuff, this kiln will be making us just enough coal to be able to get the copper. Delta Tesseract says, non-gamer is going to be confused by this talk about surrendering to the inevitability of one's end of life. Yeah. You know, that's funny. That's come up sometimes. I've wondered, because like some people I know are, they like study like Buddhism and these things and spirituality and this kind of thing. And one thing I've noticed is that, like, what, already? Really? Already? I made one. One coal? What, really? Well, welcome to attrition. I guess I'm not doing that way anymore, huh? Now I need to go get some Certling cores. Well, it actually honestly works out because the previous base, I need to go back there. I'll probably do that like next stream or maybe off stream and build my bronze armor again because I lost all of it. So when I do that, I'll also like do a burial chamber and grab some Certling cores. But yeah, that is that's what happens. Things attrit themselves. So normally not that suddenly. Like you're supposed to get like on average like between 100 or 200 of the coal before the kiln explodes. So I just got very lucky, apparently. But yeah, that good point, Delta Tesseract, because as they say, and yet surrender is exactly what one must become mature of in real life. Yep. And that's something that's interesting about games, right? I think that games are like, I know I'll offend people by saying this, but I believe that games are the truest form of art. Not that there's better or worse things. It's just that a game can have a book. A game can have a movie. A game can have a painting. A game can have an article. A game can have every other form of art. But you can't put a game in a painting. You can't put a game in a book. So that's what I mean. I'm not saying that it's like the others don't work. I'm just saying that from my perspective, video games are like this untapped, like incredible medium that allows us to feel less lonely and connect with people who we respect. And a lot of people, I think, like, really that's what's missing in their life. I don't know about you all, but the way I've seen people treat each other growing up, I've been all over the world. I've lived in Sri Lanka, Africa, the United States. Most of my, like, half of my life was in the United States. I've seen a lot of people mistreating each other. A lot of people mistreating themselves. I would say most of the time, most people I know, not everybody, but most of them, they don't have enough support from the people they care about. They don't earn enough money to cover the things that they really want to do. They've had to make a lot of sacrifices to live the life that they don't want to live. So I don't know if I just like was particularly exposed to that part of our world, and it's not really that true. It's just like my perspective, right? But that's how it seems to be, in all honesty. Let's see. So what did I mess up here? I messed something up. I'm only doing one. I see. I sneaked it. You see what I mean? One change in the beginning. That's all it takes. Screws everything up. And something I've noticed about building, like, once you get that initial shape in, and then it just feels like there's something inherently satisfying about, like, just filling the rest in. Because if you build things without that initial framework, it's like your mind has to put in more effort in order to build each room. But if you build from higher level to lower level, so to speak, and sorry, I don't mean like higher floor to lower floor. I mean higher organizational level. So like you think of each room and what it's for before you start building a single one of them. Make sense? That kind of thing. So we have 1, it tilts, 2, it tilts, 4, it tilts, now it needs to be 8. And this is already looking more promising. 1, we've avoided this confusing hump thing that I didn't really know how to deal with. And 2, we seem to be in a better position to then curve down the terrain here. So we have 2, 4, it needs to be 8, right? So this is where we'll start to need the metal here in order to actually get this to work. But I have a feeling this is going to be okay. So it looks like maybe some of this structure is just naturally going to come out. Because if I try and use the terrain as the structure, it's going to mess me up. It's going to confuse me. So I need to use a wood iron frame. That's going to be really important. So that'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Whoa, wait, really? That's what it needs to be? 2, 4, 6. Hey, it actually fit. That's really funny. So yeah, it would turn and then keep going. And I'll probably have to adjust it, because the thing is, to be honest, even looking at it now, it's gonna go too much that direction. I think it needs to be tilted even more. Maybe another another 45 degrees? It's kind of hard to tell, right? Let's do a little guess here. So it would tilt twice. So it would go that way. And then it would go 16 units that way. So let's kind of just make a little I know this isn't going to be accurate, but that would be 4. And then we need to get 16. So this is only a quarter of how far it goes. But you can see that as the shape gets bigger, it gets harder to conceptualize the ends of it, right? So we have 4. Now we're going to just keep going down. We need to get some support here. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. This is now half the size that it needs to be, right? Let's do some little messing around there. So it would need to keep going. I'm not even going to be able to get it to go that far. Right? Because this is actually only 3/4 of as long as it needs to be. So you can see that it would go to around here. It would go like a little bit further and then turn a bit more. And it's going there. You see what I mean? So I think we just need to go, yeah, like this. It's sort of. And I don't know. I'm going to guess another 45 degrees. But I don't know. You know, I could overshoot it, undershoot it. It's better that I overshoot it, actually. Because that'll make a curve that I can then correct. I don't know if that makes sense when explained that way. But, you know, I used to think that this kind of stuff was a little better to do, like, with dev commands and stuff. Because that's how, like, when I used to build things on the server, I would usually, like, practice them on a dev command world or something like that. And there's nothing against doing that. I'm not saying it's bad. But I've found that there's this desire to do things quickly that ruins the building experience. And when I use dev commands, I'm much more prone to experiencing that. Where when I like build with more limitations, as long as I've set myself up all right, you know, I don't have to restart and run here every time I die, etc. I have it more, yeah, more reasonable, so to speak. And so that's a good point, actually. So Delta Tesseract says the grind for stone is going to be epic. And well, on Palm, I don't know what part of the stream you've joined and what you've seen, but basically you do dungeons to get building materials. That's already all set up. But the new feature is that you do goblin killing if you want to get building materials. So I don't have to grind for stone in the traditional sense. Instead, we'll be fighting goblins. And goblins have a general theme of dropping stone, but not just normal stone. The goblins drop, instead of black metal scraps all the time, they drop other metal scraps, stone, grouston, and black marble. The idea is to make them a source of these things. In Palm, I try and have a lot of different gameplay loops that might be available for the server, or for different people, right? So here we have 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we need our 8. And I have a feeling this will be closer to something more reasonable. Hello, Ali Megan. Welcome, welcome, welcome. But in this stream, I'll just be kind of setting things up. And I'm not going to try and build this whole base completely. I'm going to take my time, do it episode by episode, and like fight, get material, bring it back, smelt it, use it to keep filling out the pattern. So what I'm focused on in the beginning is getting that initial pattern declared. So the starting point is to, one, be able to make a forge, which is There's something that I got a tritted out of. I brought enough stuff to make it, but then as soon as I made one single coal, my kiln exploded. Oh no, I got 2 coal. Alright, yeah, that's a lot better, isn't it? And so now I have to go back and figure something else out here. Now I keep doing that. I'm not used to this. It's so funny because I'm always babbling about UI and how much I hate it, but then I don't use the feature that allows me to stop using the UI. Like, that's so classic, isn't it? Alright, so now we're gonna go out for... Ali Megan says, oh, I'm pretty good. What about you? I'm going well. I'm going well. I'm doing well. Very well. We are setting a pattern up here to build something. So it goes 1, 2, 4, and then 8, and then the next one would be 16. And this is where I think things are going to start, like, I'm going to have to adjust it, because this, it's not like this spot was picked with, like, a perfect sequence or something. So it's going to need some assistance, and it's going to need to angle less, basically. Or maybe even angle more, right? So here we've been doing 2 out, but basically we might need to go 3 out, you know? 1, 2, 3. I've heard about build camera. I think some of the other players use that. It definitely sounds like a great building experience. I personally like, well, let me put it this way. I'm not at a point where I'm frustrated by the building mechanics in Valheim. Does that make sense? I really haven't, like built very fancy things, and I like dealing with the fact that, like, I have to keep in mind my character's height, and I have to keep my character alive, and I have to think about access. And if I try and build a building and I don't make a way to access the roof, I have to deal with that. There's consequences, right? For me personally, that is part of the building experience that I enjoy. Again, nothing against people who like to have a more, the build camera mod is more, it's more similar to a free building experience, and I don't personally enjoy that as much. But that's because, again, I really enjoy working with constraints and limitations. That's like my favorite. So obviously, like, I'm not going to be as bothered by things as other people would be, right? So in this case, for example, we don't need to be that high anymore. We can get down and also use the support here. Let's see. So if we keep the pattern going, we're going for 2, right? Let's see. You know, maybe one of you can answer. Why is the hammer in Valheim 2-handed? I've always wondered that. Like, wouldn't it be reasonable to have the hammer in one hand and a torch in an... I don't know. It just seems like a thing, you know. I've just always wondered that. Let's see. 1. So we'd have to go a lot further than this. But I think this is more similar. So it doesn't look like it now, but the staircase is gonna go too far over, if that makes sense. So I think we're onto it. I think this might be it, but maybe one more tilt for good measure. Just one, you know what I mean? Maybe that's what we actually need. Just a little bit more. I just have a feeling based on here, and I'm sorry for how dark it is, by the way. Normally I use the gamma mod, but I turned it off to debug something and I completely forgot. But in general, when you're making content, you shouldn't... Valheim is too dark by default for your YouTube video, for the most part. Especially in days where things are very algorithmic. Like, there's situations where, like, the AI and stuff can tell when things are darker and they just don't show as much content. It's like, the AI knows everything now. 4, 5, so this would need 3 more to be 8, but it would need to be 16, right? So this would start going really far out. So you know what? I think we actually need to go even further maybe 2 rotations. So another 45 degrees. Wait, no, how much is each rotation? This would be 90. 1, 2, 3, 4. So each rotation is like half of 45. 22.5 degrees, something like that. Whatever, I'm just going to call it 1 rotation. That's easier. So it was here. Probably I want to put it here because the way the shape works, when I correct it, it'll look more interesting if the correction creates something like a curve. So I have a feeling it'll be better to go a little bit too far in the rotation than not far enough. Because after this point, like this needs to be 16 meters out, and then the next one needs to be 32, you know? So it needs to go quite far. And the goal is to get it to go down to that spot, that river over there. So I think, actually, if I follow this logic, we're going to go with 3 rotations. I'm gonna overdo it a lot. You see, this is how, like, it's hard for me to imagine spirals, and I often think, like, oh, I just need to rotate it once. But then that doesn't work. I should have been killed by that goblin. I'm very surprised he didn't kill me. You want to go, Mr. Goblin? You want to go? I got a shield. Where are you at? Ow. 1-star goblin. That's not so bad. Yeah. Oh, you got a friend. Well, I guess that makes sense. I mean, it is nighttime. I'm just, like, putzing around building stuff. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, empowered bronze, my friend. What you gonna do? That's right. You're gonna bring me what I need. Which apparently is black metal scrap I can't do anything with. Next time. Alright, let's get some food situation going on here. Got a little bit of something. There we go. Yeah, I would say three rotations will probably do it. But then we'll need to get the iron in these things. So at this point, I feel pretty confident in this shape. So I'm going to go get the stuff that I need from the other base. So I just need to make it back there. But before I do that, I have some hens that are complaining. So let me bring them down from their roost real quick.
All right, welcome back. I'm so happy the internet's actually working. I can just keep going. And I feel very inspired. I'm shocked, to be honest, because yesterday I felt inspired for like 3 hours, and then I got really inspired, worked on a whole patch, did a bunch of other stuff, and then, whew, still inspired. I don't know what's going on, but I'm gonna roll with it. And what we need right now, what we're being bottlenecked by, is the fact that I lost the Surtling cores. So I need to go acquire some. And at this point, all of my armor is broken. My wolf cape thing is broken. Everything's broken. My soul is broken. I don't know. My soul's not broken. I'm pretty happy, to be honest. I guess that means I don't have a broken soul. But what we need to make sure I remember is I should take this just so I can repair it in the other place. And nothing else needs to stay here. Now I just need to stay alive, so let's get a little buff. And we're going to go for a run. Let's see, I haven't been looking at the server chat, so let's see what people have been talking about. As you can see, the server makes a story, basically, as people do things. It says what they're doing, so you can just read, like, Discord on your phone and, like, see what's happening on Palm. Even if the player isn't talking, the server's like, this guy's building in this area over here, and now he's sailing over here, and then he's shooting arrows, and then he died. Sometimes there's something incredibly satisfying about reading them, and like, especially when they seem like they form a story, right? Because it's not always true. Like, the server sometimes will be like, oh, this person died, and a goblin was there. But it was actually, you know, a seeker fighting the goblin, and the seeker killed the player. It just targets the closest enemy when the person dies and blames that enemy publicly as if they killed the person, which I find to be quite funny, in all honesty. And I'm realizing now, you know, the smart thing to do here would be to take all of this stuff and then sail back to the Black Forest base, wouldn't it? I mean, that would be a lot smarter than what I was going to do, which was run back there and leave the tune here, and then have to run back with one inventory. That wasn't a good idea. Let's see. Let's see, 1 second. Jake has a question. So, do I have to put the items I'm after at the price? Huh. So... Oh, for the shelf? For the trade shelf? Oh, okay, okay. So if you're listening, Shin, or Jake, to make a trade shelf, you make the personal chest, and then you do the shelf command, and then to set the trade shelf up, you put the contents in, and then you punch the trade shelf, but it has to be 2 punches in a row. Because the first punch does one thing, and then the second punch does something else. That's how you set up a trade shelf. You have to punch it. The idea was, like, make it feel like a computer that isn't working or something, you know, and you just give it a good wallop. I guess that doesn't work anymore, but that used to be how you fix things, I swear, I swear. It's not just me being crazy. Alright, so now we're just gonna unload everything that is in the tune, and then fix it, basically, by taking the tune back to the Black Forest base so that I can get some more resources. Because I was at the crypt place, but there's barely anything there. And let's see, I'll give you guys a moment. I'll make this decision if you don't by the time I get back. But I'll either go the easy way, the way I've already gone many times, that way, or we can go down the river and figure out how to get there going the other way, which might be more interesting. So yeah, either the easy way or the other way. Let me know. Whoever answers that first, I'll do what you say. I'm gonna go take this up here, and if you don't say anything, I will probably just go the easy way. Maybe, I don't know though. Sometimes, I guess it depends how I feel the moment I step foot in the boat. No, I know what it depends on. Who am I kidding? This isn't our decision. This is the wind's decision. How preposterous. Thinking I had my free agency. No. The wind is gonna decide where we go. And now we've loaded everything up, so we're ready to get into it. All right. I lost all my... That's so funny. It's interesting how if you have a strong enough shield... I mean, I've been able to, like, handle a goblin hit without dying, even when it's a starred goblin. And I think normally I would die, so I'm assuming it's because of how strong the shields are. I mean, this is like level 24, right? And it's not even fully empowered, but that's a lot, right? It's a lot stronger than normal. All right, where's our fate? Oh, fate says we're going back in the normal direction. All right, all right. That works out. Yeah, it's always fun seeing the tune, because like so far, oh, it's a normal boat, nothing too crazy, but then we actually get the wind behind our sails, and suddenly we are basically in jet ski mode. And it's like hard to control the tune, as you can see. It's very easy to crash, so oftentimes I recommend you sail it at 2 speed and use the third as like sort of like a boost. It's kind of like a turbo button. And then you can even keep the speed. When you go into this mode, you can turn more easily, and your boat will keep some of the momentum, as you can see. So we now have been screwed by the wind completely. Basically, no matter which way we went, the wind is coming from where we need to go, which, as usual, is an indication that if you need to go somewhere and you're lost in no map, no portal mode, just look at where the wind is coming from, and it's probably a safe bet that the wind is coming from the opposite direction you need it to be. So if there's a wind blowing south, you probably need to go to the north. I've found that to work. I know that logically that doesn't make sense. Call it pseudoscience, whatever, yeah. But it's a thing. So I just saw your comment. Delta says, I'm on Xbox Series X, not a PC Viking. Servers would be so fun to play on. Waiting to start a long, forever world only once 1.0 drops. Hey, you know, I really, really want Palm to be playable. Like, everything I'm showing you, you could play it on an Xbox if I put on if I forked the Palm server, basically. Because the only reason you can't right now is because crossplay is disabled. Because crossplay causes ludicrous problems that are a huge pain in the ass, and they make Valheim's worst problems even worse. So it's like here's a feature that makes the things you hate about the game even more powerful. So that's why crossplay isn't enabled here, but it is possible, and I have wanted to put a crossplay fork of the Palm server on. The thing is, it wouldn't have the same level of attention that this server has. Like, I play on this server, I maintain it, whereas if I made a crossplay fork, like, it's more like I can explain how someone can set the server up, and in some situations, I might be willing to provide one that people could access. Like, if 4 people come together and message me in a group message, and all 3 of the other 4 people, so 5 of us total, if 4 people message me in a group message and all 4 of them seem genuinely interested, I will provide you with a fork of Palm that's on the Xbox accessible. Keep in mind, the world file would become whatever you do with it. I would update the scripts as I develop them, but you wouldn't necessarily have the same experience. But I can offer that because, as I mentioned, this is server-side modding. So it is possible for this experience already to be on Xbox and Mac. It's just a matter of setting a server up with the Palm layer on it, and actually, like, you know, not having other people join it. Because that's the thing about crossplay. It works alright if it's just Xbox players, or like, I don't know about Mac, to be honest. I haven't experienced that. But if there's just Xbox people joining the crossplay server, it's not as bad. There's something about, like, the PC players on the server that it gets really messy really quickly. And you have a lot more rubber banding and networking issues and all of these things that people tend to really hate. Crossplay makes that worse. But if you're playing on Xbox and what you're interested in is like a one player or maybe like a co-op kind of situation, because, you know, Valheim's already kind of like that. Like, on Palm, it's sort of like that. Like, there's a bunch of people who play on Palm, but they're usually not, like, playing directly with each other, right? And often that's because, like, the combat is punishing because you lag more in multiplayer if you're near another person. That's just how it is, right? And that's not, like, a thing. Sometimes in certain situations it's worse on Palm, but for the most part, that's just Valheim. That's just how it is, you know? So, when you want to play on Xbox, I mean, maybe someone wants to have, like, a more single-player experience, you know what I mean? Or they just want to play with their one friend. In that case, yeah, we don't need to wait. It's just a demand thing. Like, basically, I earn some money from the work I do promoting servers. So if a few people want that, and I genuinely believe you care, I'll provide it for 90 days. And then if people are using it, I'll just keep it going. I just don't want it, like, I don't mind using my, like, Zap income to finance another server. I just don't want to be financing an empty server or a server that causes me to not be able to focus on Palm on this server, which is the one this is like my main focus. So if I find myself in a situation where something is taking me away from developing on Path of Magic, I'm not gonna like that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if people want that, they need to show the interest, and I'll provide it, but I won't be able to manage things. So it'll be more like your own, like your group of server, you're playing it. I can, like, set up things so it, like, has automation schedules and all of the Palm stuff, right? And all of the messaging and everything, and all of the rules and the mechanics. But the rest has to be handled differently. Hey, that's right, we rebuilt the dock, and look at that. It still looks nice, and we can just come right up to it. Hey. I'm so glad. We added a way for players to respawn entire forests recently. And that is what happened here. And it's been awesome, to be honest. There's something that's so refreshing about the, after the vegetation comes back when it's been gone. And, I'm just gonna hope that troll is you can just stay over there. Hey, some money. This would be very useful. That's right. There is some stuff over here. Let's see, is our diverger... This guy, I gotta say, this area, for some reason, the diverger here, they live for such a long time. It's really fascinating. Usually, diverger ends up dying. Let's see, what do we have going on? Oh, frost arrows, definitely need those. I'll probably appreciate... I can get silver more easily where I'm going. So I don't think I need to worry about that kind of stuff too much. The main thing, really, that I'm interested in is actually making more bronze. Because I had those bronze armor sets, and I pretty much lost all the pieces to them. So now what we're gonna do is set up, let's see, oh yeah, I was just making the bronze bars. And I know you're like, why are you making bronze? And that's why. Bronze is let's be real, it's the shittiest armor set in the game. So if I can have a good time wearing bronze armor, I mean, it's gotta be balanced, right? It's gotta be. Oh, Shin, if you wanna take some of the rubies from this base, you're welcome to. Like, basically, in the communal bases, you think of it this way. Yeah, I know that some people feel guilty about taking things and blah, 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 and some people take too many things. But every time you take something, that creates a vacuum for more stuff to be supplied. And on the server like Palm, players benefit from feeling like other people use their stuff. So if people, like Ping, for example, he likes equipping bases with things. If he were doing that and nobody used the things, you know, it doesn't really... I feel like it's not as fun for him. But when he makes a base and then, like, in the stream, I use the things he's made and I'm, like, using food that he provided, like, in my head, I don't know, maybe I'm delusional, but that adds immersion to his experience. And I think that that's true for everybody. It's just a matter of figuring out how each player can, like, get this thing they like getting and take this thing they don't like taking. And this other player gets the thing that they like that the other person doesn't like and takes the thing that, you know, it can all work out and everybody gives and takes and gives and takes, and it's fine. You don't need to be so concerned, really. And, like, for the most part, like, if you mess up, someone's gonna tell you. Like, I don't, like, move against people without communicating with them and that kind of thing. Really. Like, so maybe they don't see my communication or they avoid it for some reason. But, oh, you know what I do need? I need coal. That's what I need. It would be kind of interesting taking an ultra cart. I guess I could get that from the money. Well, what else should I take? Some barrel hoops. That's a good idea. How's this nonsense chest doing? Oh, hey, we got some cores. I don't really need that many. I'm probably fine with just something like that, to be honest. Well, I don't know. That's what I thought, right? But then the kiln got attritted immediately and exploded. So, I don't know. Maybe not, right? Maybe not. We got a good hammer. What was I? Ah, yeah. I need to see about this. That's right. Upgrade. Here we go. 3. There we go. We can get everything to level 2. I will say the armor is not as motivating to empower. You can still empower things like all the armors and everything, but it's not as beneficial. Like when you empower a weapon or a shield and you have a level 12 or 24 weapon, they're really, really strong. Like this bronze sword does 100 damage and only has 8 stamina usage. So you can make like a whole new class of weapons, right? Like the Abyssal Razor, right? This has a really low stamina usage as well. Whereas the other powerful weapons in the game, they get higher stamina usage. Same thing with the bows. So you can use that to sort of have different experiences than you've had before, right? Oh, and we also have some iron here. That would be really smart to bring. That's gonna save time. I'd rather do that than do like crypts on stream. I've done enough sunken crypts. I had like a whole 15 episodes of sunken crypting. So what we're gonna do now is, while I'm here, I'm going to take advantage of this verger here, and we're going to build a grinding wheel so that we can temper our items. And tempered items, basically, they get triple durability, but not total durability. So you can't repair them back to that. It's like a temporary thing. It's sort of like you're sharpening the sword or that kind of thing. And I find it really beneficial to do it to armor because then the armor, instead of breaking at 1,200 hits, you break at like 3,600 or whatever it ends up being. But before we do that, I need to find the stone cutter. I think there's one over here, right? Yeah. I guess that's not a roof. All right. Fair enough. It's true. It isn't a roof. It's a staircase. What, can I just go like... Maybe I can just do something simple. Yeah, nice. I guess I only need one. It's kind of funny that there's no grinding stone near it. That probably means something was destroyed recently. Let's see, can I fit one in there? Yeah, I don't need to. I can probably just build it behind him, right? Like if I build it here, is that close enough to him? Let's see. Can you, out of curiosity, can you all hear the hens wailing? They want some kind of snack or something, or me to rake the yard. They're kind of like one of those lawnmowers that you have to like pull the cord a couple times to get it started. And once you get it started, it just keeps on going, right? A motor or something. The hens are like that. Like they'll be like, "We have no food. We have nothing here." And then you just like rake the garden a little bit, and suddenly they're pecking and scratching with pure delight, happy as clams. And what's crazy too is hens love presents. You would think that they don't, because people act like they're not like dogs or cats. But that's because we eat them and we want to demean them. And don't get me wrong, I eat chicken sometimes. I'm not trying to guilt anyone into not eating chicken. But that doesn't change the fact that they are incredibly beautiful, intelligent creatures. And as pets, they're fascinating. Especially if you get like ones that are more close to their nature. They like will get broody and then totally change their behavior. Like one of the hens, when she becomes broody, she turns into a gamer, I swear. She just wants to sit still and never go outside. She always wants to be inside, and if there's no eggs to sit on, she'll just sit like on a chair in the house all day. It's like, what are you doing? You are a chicken. And like it's funny because it's such a contrast, because normally they really want to just be outside pecking and scratching, but then they go into this mood where they just change and they're not like that anymore, and it's so interesting. I've always thought it's quite fascinating, and I definitely, I don't regret getting chickens, definitely not. Although I didn't go out and get 12 chickens. I didn't do anything crazy. Started with 3. Definitely recommend it, especially if you have the space for one. Here, or not one, but a couple of them. You don't need a whole lot of space, but like here, for example, I don't use a coop or anything, and the hens just live in the yard. And like sometimes, as you guys can tell, they like get into the house and stuff, right? They have like access, and there's a gate, and like if we forget to shut the gate, or we like leave it open for too long, they'll come inside and that kind of thing. So they have a lot of free reign, but there's like a whole area over there. And hey, it's Jake. What's up? Welcome. I'm looking for stuff to take over to the other spots here. Oh, there's so much wood. I should probably take some core wood. That would be smart. Alright, where's that cart? Yeah, here we are. And this is another mechanic. I always get kind of distracted by talking to you all about mechanics. But here's here's another one. There's multiple different kinds of carts, right? So this is an ultra cart, and it has more health than a normal cart does. It has more storage space. But you do have to be wary of the weight. If you fill it up with metal, like you can't even use like half of the screen without having a lot of problems. So the weight is always a limiting factor if you're using really heavy things in particular. But in this case, we're just gonna go with some basic stuff here. Some core wood's probably fine. This is the Black Forest, so I'm just gonna assume it's easy to get more core wood here. You don't need loads of other stuff. I'm trying to think of the stuff we really need to work on the framing project. It's mostly just wood, metal. And then the rest of the stuff is going to be acquired by being there. Because we'll get all the stone that we need and all of the metal that we need. We just need the things to make the... Oh yeah, copper. That was the thing I didn't have before, copper. That's right. We just need the things to do that pretty much. And then we'll be able to get everything else there though. So I don't know. I kind of feel like it'll be more interesting if I just take what I need to start with a smelter and I expand from there. So for now, I'll just focus on getting the... I won't completely drain the iron supply here, but this is probably good. We're going to get enough iron so that next time we build in that other area, don't have to worry so much about the stability to work on that Fibonacci spiral or whatever it's called. Let's see. Jake said, let's see. I grew up with chickens. I miss eggs. I worked at Taco Bell as an adolescent, and they'd let you bring the extra stuff home for them. Oh, that's I bet your hens were happy with some Taco Bell. Hens love things that they can put their beak in that has a certain consistency. It's a combination of softness and crunch. So they also have really developed taste. I know people don't trust their hens, whatever. I've seen, I study permaculture and I pretty much collect plants. So there's loads of plants at the house of different kinds, etc., etc. And certain plants are poisonous, right? The hens always know. They may peck something curiously once or twice, but they don't eat things if they're poisonous. I don't need to teach them. The problem is that people have animals in cages and they're really hungry, and then they give them something and the animal has no other choice but to eat that thing. So of course in that situation you have to be very careful. You can't give them something that can harm them because they're gonna eat it. They don't have anything else going on. Whereas when the animals they have other things available, they'll pick the things that aren't toxic for them. Always. Like, you can trust and have faith in them to do so. I don't know about dogs. Dogs is a little bit different because humans have made so many poisons that dogs get themselves into. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about chickens in nature eating leaves, bugs, and plants. All right? That's the angle I'm going for. So here we have some other stuff. I don't want to take a bunch of stuff, so I'm just going to take enough coins to summon a trader. And that's it for now. Having some treasure is really useful because other players can use it to build, and some of the other people want to use rubies for stuff. Believe it or not, in Palm, all of this stuff becomes super, super valuable. Everything you need for a treasure chest. Because this allows you to empower, so you can make things really, really strong. All sorts of stuff can happen. But for now, I'm going to empower my bronze sword. Yeah, there we go. Let's repair some stuff, because I think I have everything that I need. I think so. Don't need any of this for now. It would be pretty useful to have a silver knife, in all honesty. Against undead, they're incredible, but we're going to be in the plains fighting goblins, so I don't anticipate fighting that many undead. We have our sword, and I think I know. I'm going to temper the rest of the gear that I have here. Let's set that up. So I'm gonna keep that safe over there, and we're going to temper my sword and the shield. Yeah, see, this one was tempered, but when I repair it, it can't get repaired higher than its maximum durability. So it's sort of like a self-balancing thing. Tempering ends up being temporary. And there's no risk with tempering. Unlike empowering. With tempering, you pay 99 coins, and your durability gets tripled. See? Now, this one is 3,100 out of 1,350. So your items and gear and your tools can last a lot longer. And you can try and temper anything, right? So I have a level 3 hammer here, right? I can just go over here and then pay 99 coins. And now the level 3 hammer, right, has 800 durability. So I'll be able to build things a little bit longer, even though it's still level 3. And once it gets repaired, like, it just becomes the normal item again. So you lose the benefit. And I think that's an interesting thing to do. But it didn't end up being motivating enough to justify the empowering system. So that's why empowering ends up going a lot further than that and actually doubles the entire strength of your build, or of your weapons. And again, like, yeah, empowering, really, it's very profoundly impactful. And it's hard to understand just how, unless you actually play on the server and start seeing how it works. Because it doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially if you just explain to a new player to Palm who hasn't, like, who's played normal Valheim a lot. Like, if you tell them, oh, you can get level 96 items, like, yeah, it just sounds very out of balance. But that's what's so interesting about the empowering system, is it doesn't end up being that out of balance. Because of a couple different reasons. It helps counter the no map, no portal difficulty. And also, a lot of things in Palm in general, they do a lot of damage. That's pretty typical, right? So it just helps manage all of that. Ends up working out. Alright, so we came here to acquire more iron, for the most part. Also rebuild my bronze gear so I can have that set. Let's repair the wolf cape before I forget about it. And then we're gonna sail back to whence we came. But now we have fire arrows and frost arrows. Let's refresh our stack here. Alright, good enough. And I think probably we're good to go back now. No, we'll see how it goes. We'll see. But it looks quite promising. Don't really need anything else. The main thing is to get the iron and the surtling cores, and I think there's 10, right? Didn't I grab them? I thought I grabbed them. They're not here. Ah, okay, I put them here already. Okay, cool. 10 isn't that many, so I could still get screwed over. But I don't think there are any more here. Oh no, there's 300. Okay, there are definitely surtling cores somewhere. I guess I shouldn't worry about that then. Where are they? Ah, okay, so someone's been doing more of these things. That's cool. Well, this will make it way easier. Awesome. Yeah, 30 should be good. Well, actually, I don't know. I might need, like... I'm making, like, a factory kind of thing. Yeah, I'll take as many as I can carry. Seems like a better decision here. I guess surtling cores, they're gonna be... You basically need surtling cores on Palm to smelt metal, because let's say you smelt 1,000 metal. You're gonna go through surtling cores by doing that. Make sense? And the goal there is to make parts of the game more relevant later on. But actually doing that in practice can be kind of tricky. And here we're going to use a couple different mechanics at once. So there's this cart here, right? And I've learned from experience, it's very challenging to keep a cart in a carve. But on Path of Magic, there is a special thing that you can do with these wooden floor pieces, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this here. Let's make one of these. We're just going to have it come a little bit closer to the ship. And then if you build 10 of these, just like this, right? 10 of those. Ah, no, I should do it another way. The boat is changing our situation here. You just build 10 kind of piles of wood in a row, right? So we have 2, 3. Let's get off the ship. That'll stop it from moving, actually. That's smarter. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Boom, there we go. We get a strong cargo crate. And a normal cargo crate in Valheim is actually quite weak. They're really easy to break. Strong cargo crates have 16 slots, 4 times as much storage, and they have like 100 times as much health. So they'll still break eventually, but you can actually use them and transport them. The thing is, you have to be careful that they don't fall out of the boat. And in this case, we're gonna put the most high priority stuff in here, right? And then the rest of the stuff in here and in my inventory. So we have probably enough space to move everything. Let's start with the highest priority, which is gonna be the iron. And then after that, some of the core wood, I would say, and some normal wood. Let's just fill up the hold here. And we don't need to put the 2 iron there. That could be one of the things that our character holds. So the hold is full. And now we need to fill up the cargo crate. And in general, you want less cargo crates, because the less in the boat, the less problems in theory. But never assume a cargo crate is safe, okay? They are very useful. I use them this way. But I also have lost them to the ocean and then retrieved them later. They have a lot of health, so it's not like you'll lose them permanently if they fall out of the boat. You can actually go back later and get them. But that, combined with the speed of the carve when it flips around, it does make it easy to mess things up a little bit, let's say. But this looks solid to me. We got most of what we need. We got some wood there. We have some iron that we're gonna need in order to work on our frame. And that should be enough to get us started. And then we'll see if we can get everything else from raiding goblin camps using the new mechanics to get all the stone that we need to build stuff. I'm actually gonna take more of these Surtling cores. In general, here's a rule of thumb for taking resources from bases. If you're in a base that's in a biome, it's usually fine to take the things that come from that biome because they're plentiful. And in general, it's beneficial on the no map, no portal world for people to move things from the biome they come from to the other biomes players are in, right? Because you can't like teleport things in the same way that you can normally. So moving material is a useful thing. So in general, if you're going somewhere away from the Black Forest, it's good to take Black Forest related things there. Make sense? In this case though, I'm just gonna sell this stuff and use it to get some more money here. See, we have loads of storage because of our heavy armor set. I love it. It's good stuff. Let's see, we're selling 2 of these and 1 of those. All right, that should be good. Now we have, yeah, like a decent amount of coins. It may look like that's plenty of coins, but trust me, when you start buying stuff, you can really quickly run out of it. Let's see what's in here. Nothing? That's fine. All right, so that looks pretty solid. Our inventory is pretty much available here. I could grab some more food. Let's see. I'll look at the stocks. We'll see how the food supply is. Because I haven't actually made any food yet, but in the next base, in this Plains Tower, it will have, like, this is basically I'm going to make an endgame base pretty much, but stagger it out slowly over time. That's the idea. So I guess we can fill the rest of this here. We can take some of these serpent stews. Hey, more stamina food. Nice. Good stuff. And there we go. That's probably fine. I'll leave the Eater food. I like how well balanced Eater is. It's available early in the game, but you only get the food as drops. And you don't get it that often. So when you start actually trying to use it, you just consume the food straight away. So it ends up working pretty well. And that's actually why I stopped using the Staff of Fracturing, even though I did get one. So in this case, let's see, how do I make this work? Because I need to block to get the buff, to get the armor thing. But that's not going to happen. So I need to be carrying less heavy stuff, right? But all of these things are approximately 100. And all of these things are even heavier. So the reality is I do need another cargo crate because I won't reliably have the buff that I have at the moment. So let's see, I need to toss something. Why don't I handle it this way? I'm going to toss the wood because it can float. And I need to toss like, what, 300? This will probably be fine. Boom, boom, boom. Just a little bit more. Yeah, there we go, 449. Exactly more. So I'm gonna just add another one of these cargo crates. As you saw, they're pretty easy to build. You just need to make this piece, this corner one piece. You need to make 10 of them on top of each other. And then you will just get a cargo crate. Just like that. It takes a second to show up and it'll float. And then you can just kind of hit it and then put it into place, right? I'm just going to assume I'm going to lose this stuff. So, like I said, I don't know how this is going to go. But I'm assuming it won't go perfectly. And if we end up keeping everything, well, we got lucky. The good news is the voyage won't take that long. And that'll be the end of this stream. So I'll be back on Monday to actually do the building and use these resources. But for now, I'll focus on getting over there. That's all good. I'm good. The wood's in that thing. Anything else I could just toss in here? Nah, I'm alright. Alright, let's get to it. Here we go. I hope I don't die. I also have to be careful, because see how easy it is to turn the tune? It's kind of a test. You can keep the tune relatively well controlled as long as you use 2 and 1 star, or 1 stage. When you're using the 3rd speed, the wind has to be directly behind your back, otherwise the boat can flip really easily. And if you use it in a thunderstorm, it's also really, really easy to have the boat flip. Oh, I remember that, Valkyrie. What if I told you all that Raka discovered how to make flying bone maul serpents that attack the player reliably? And I've just been trying to figure out where to put them. I know that that's too much. It's too much to put early in the game. But I want to make some kind of situation where there is some kind of, like, terrible moment where there is a bone maul flying towards you in the fucking sky. Because bone maul are, I would argue, they're the most dangerous monster on Palm. Bone maul, Fallen Valkyrie, Zhao, they all have, like, mechanical adjustments that make them more dangerous, and especially with palm mechanics. So all of those mobs have ways to bypass shields by hitting the player twice. Because any monster that hits you twice in quick succession can kill you. But it depends. Like if you're holding block, you'll be all right. But if you're not holding block, you're gonna die, pretty much. So it's interesting how you'd think that means, oh, you can just hold block all the time. But if you try and just hold block all the time, it doesn't work. Because then you can't attack, right? So you have to go from attacking to being defensive, to attacking to being defensive, and alternate that way. Let's see. Jake said, bone more dragons. Yeah. Yeah, they're like the Asian style dragon, right? Make it triggered by the upgraded Drakkar. No, that would be horrible. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like they're so cool, but I don't know a situation where it would be okay to bring them in. Honestly, actually, no, that's not true. There's one situation, boss fights. Because I've been trying to figure out how to make boss fights crazier and have different things happen. So one of the things that can happen is like Fader can help by, you know, bringing in some bone maul or something like that, right? And yeah, Mistlan's having some bone maul could be interesting because they would fight with the Zhao. So that would be amusing. Scary. Also, I've noticed how people, when they first join Palm, they're often quite peaceful. And then after a couple months of playing on Palm, suddenly players are like, what if you put this thing that made it so they could all explode? Or what if you put this thing that made an attack that made them lose everything? I'm like, wait, what? I thought people hated me for doing these things. And then suddenly the players that end up recommending them. It's funny. I'm not saying that always happens though. I know well that there's plenty of things I do that like might not even be popular with most of the players. And to be honest, that's one of the things that is very beneficial for me, because the harder parts of the game dev situation are like getting experience managing people, working with the psychology of things. And Palm gives me all of that. It's really, really beneficial and very, very lucky in that way. It's been a blast. And like I wasn't really expecting that. Like I had made like different Valheim servers before, but just as kind of like a thing I found fun. It was like how I played Valheim for a bit. I would just do things that way. Yeah, and sometimes people would join. Yeah, but it wasn't like something posh, really. It wasn't anything that fancy. It wasn't even that popular. Like maybe there'd be like a player every other day join the server for a couple minutes. And sometimes a couple people would really like it. But yeah, it wasn't anything like Path to Ashlands and then Path to Magic. And it's crazy to see how it's all changed. And like, to be honest, I think one of the reasons for that is because at some point it became clear to me that like if I take it as my own all the time, I'm gonna limit it. And like if I want to learn as much as possible, I have to just let Palm become whatever it's gonna become. And I have to stop trying to make it be finished by a certain day or whatever, and just roll with it and invite people to play on it and then develop mechanics based on their experiences and polish it over time. And I don't know when I'll get bored of working on it, but at some point I'll want to work on something else, and you know, I'll do that. But for now, I mean, I love it, and there's so much to do. Like, I don't even mean from the player's perspective. I mean like from a development perspective. I have like endless mechanics to try out and add, and like even already thought of ones, let alone things I haven't even thought of yet or players haven't mentioned, right? There's so much. It's just become like an endless thing. I don't feel like there is an end to it. And that's, I think, kind of part of the advantage. And what, this is just me theorizing, so maybe those of you who play on Palm can tell me what you think. But I think one of the reasons people enjoy Palm is because it helps people tap a bit more into a more, not endless Valheim, but a Valheim world that is more long-lasting. And this stands out because Valheim traditionally is such a temporary experience that it's a marked part of almost the brand of the experience. So when you have a world that is persistent for a long time, it's very unusual, right? It's very, very odd. And I think that might be what it's like. People, for the most part, don't want to play on no map, no portal worlds, let alone like customized worlds, trusting some random person. Like, I'm just some random person on the internet. Like I know that maybe like some people respect me and think of me as like someone who understands game design and thinks about these things. But like average people don't think about it that way. They just like even when people join in the beginning, I can be like, hey, this is for this reason and this and this and this. Don't do that. But like they have to like not believe me and do it themselves. You know what I mean? Like that's just how it is. That's part of game design, is learning to not take things personally and understanding that it's all just psychology and people. And if you can learn to predict the behavior of people reliably, then your games will do better, just because you'll be able to get the players to behave in a more fun and enjoyable manner. What happens most of the time is game developers make mechanics and they just don't do what their intended purpose is for. And I'm not any better at that. The thing that makes Palm different is that I plan on me not knowing it right. So I expect that some of the coolest mechanics are complete accidents, suggestions from players, things that I might even think feel stupid. I've been in that experience enough times to know that that is how it works for me. Like, I can think about something logically, but nothing tells you if something's fun like playing it and trying it out. And like, I always talk about the empowered system, but that's because it was so not a purposeful thing. Like, empowering started because I wanted to figure out how I could destroy players' weapons and then be okay with it. And it was like, shit, all right. Well, you got to give them something really, really good. But at first I was like, all right, what if they can repair the weapon anywhere? You know what I mean? Like, they can repair the weapon out in the plains even though they don't have a forge. But no one gave a crap about that, basically. So then Yer posted this math thing, and then it was like, oh, you can make a value double itself based on its current value to a new one. And we were just like, whoa. So what if the item doubled in strength, or it got destroyed? And that was the birth of the empowering system. And then what was so crazy about it is I immediately, as I was developing, I was like, this is ridiculous. I was just looking at the stats and, like, you know, letting things go up to level 96 and 64. I picked 64 because I like the Nintendo 64, and 96 was an accidental thing because I didn't realize that when you start empowering at level 3 and you double, and when you start empowering at level 4 and you double, it puts you at a different spot, which, I mean, obviously makes sense, but it creates this secret hidden knowledge where Palm, like, people who understand the mechanics know that because of how things double and the limits on Palm, if you start with a level 3 and you fully empower it all the way, it can get up to level 96, which is the most powerful level it can possibly be, because you can't get it past 100. But if you start at level 4, then the limit is level 64, like the Nintendo 64. So that again, I'm only talking about this because it's I think the element that makes the experience here different. It's not that anything here is necessarily better. Like, I'm not a better scripter or a better manager of anything. I don't understand programming better than other places. I don't control things better. The thing that's different is the attitude, if that makes sense. It's this notion on the server that, like, the server is more than just me. It's, like, based on what happens on it and what people do causes the mechanics in the server to get adjusted and changed, right? Like, if a player joins and causes a problem for another player, the server gets adjusted so that future players have trouble doing that. And it's like a way that everybody's community can end up sort of working together on this Valheim thing that isn't really from any one person. It's from like a collection of people. And I think that what I'm getting at is the difference on Palm is that I'm very willing to not take credit for things. And that helps people be more open-minded and share more, so they have like a more unique experience. Whereas if I was very trying to control everything, it fosters this culture of not trusting each other. And don't get me wrong, I know that like there's tons of like people who cause problems. I'm not saying that isn't a thing. It's just that I believe that it's better to treat people well from the very beginning and assume that they have good intentions until they absolutely prove me wrong. And I find that with that attitude, it's better to involve everybody. And everybody who comes, and even if they cause a problem, that's an opportunity to adjust the server so that that isn't a problem anymore. You see what I'm getting at? And this is like a whole mentality people don't really have. People are kind of aggressive and very controlling in a lot of Valheim situations. So like what's normal on a Valheim server is to try and control every player. But in doing so, you take away the player's ability to teach you. Does that make sense? And yes, maybe you were right. That was a griefer. You made a good call. Let's say you're right 9 out of 10 times. By the time you've dealt with 30 people, you've missed out on 3 situations where you were wrong. And I've found that being wrong is some of the best mechanics. Like, again, I wouldn't have developed Empowering, which became the most effective item sync in the game. Empowering made it so that any player can pick any piece of gear that they like and raise its strength to meet whatever part of the game they want to play in. It made early game items viable later on in the game, and accidentally had this side effect of not really helping very late game weapons that much because they're so expensive to make over and over and over and over again. So players tend to empower earlier or mid-game weapons because they're easier to make. And it also had that effect of making everything related to a treasure chest in high demand in Path of Magic. You need rubies, you need silver necklaces. These things become what people want. And it's so crazy how just a couple lines of script in a text file allowed all of those changes to happen. And that's what I'm getting at. Like, if you really want to have the server, let's say, stay alive and grow into something beyond what you can imagine, you have to entertain the notion that you are wrong. You have to be willing to assume you are wrong. So when someone joins and I feel like they're sketchy, I'm going to assume they are wrong until they prove me otherwise. And I've learned, sometimes I've been burned by that, but more often than not, I've learned from that. And we now have a server where, for the most part, people share things and they find it to be an interesting experience that they can't really get somewhere else. And I get to learn a lot about this. I get to make content about it, and it teaches me game development. I get to live what I've always wanted, or at least for 20 years I've wanted to make games. And I didn't really care about like It doesn't need to be my own game. I just wanted to make things that other people play, and then figure out how I can get good enough at that to make games that other people play that makes them feel happy, but by accident. Like, I don't want to make a game that's like, oh, you play this game and there's marketing for your mental health. No, I want to make it so it tricks people into being happy. Makes sense? It tricks them into having better habits and taking better care of themselves. And there's all these things I want to teach people through video games that I think, like, you can use video games to be very influential. But I just wasn't able to tap into that and practice those things. I just really wasn't, until this Valheim thing happened, and then suddenly I can just practice things, and it's awesome. And it's not like I have everything I could ever dream, but I have what I actually care about in life. So I can honestly say, like, I don't want more. Like, I could have a better computer and all these other things, but, like, I don't find myself thinking about that. I just, like, I'm sleepy sometimes. Other times I want to hang out in the garden. Other times I want to play games and watch YouTube videos and, like, learn about Valheim stuff and make videos. And that's just life. And it's all because of this and this game and all these awesome people. So as Hilly said, yeah, I got a similar feedback on my event map, where I also added POL besides the main route, so people also start to explore way more than they would do normal and chat with each other about their experience. Well, it also helped me to improve the experience and know what the new stuff and what would work well. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, getting that kind of feedback is great, and that's something, like, if you're interested in, like, server management in any way, right? Like, something I recommend a lot is using Discord connector and live chat, because it makes it so you can just look, right? And, like, we can see what people are doing. So I don't have to witness people using mechanics. I get an automatically generated log of every time, for the most part, that somebody uses the mechanics, right? So if I search for But It Exploded, which is the result of a failed Empower, we have 1,751 results. And some things can come up in 2 channels, so let's half that. That means that people have failed Empowers over 500 or 600 times. And that's what I'm getting at. I know, like, when I babble about the empowering system, maybe it doesn't make sense why I'm so shocked by it and why it was such a big lesson for me personally. But it was a simple script, mostly made by accident, that I thought wouldn't do anything good. And it turned into one of the backbones of the Palm experience that defines Path of Magic. And you see what that means? That means I wasn't just wrong. I was fundamentally wrong. I was wrong on a level so deep that, like, it wasn't even close. And once I had that experience a couple times, it made me get it. I was like, oh, I get it. The good things don't come from me. I get in the way. I'm like this catalyst that can put things into a situation where people can try them. I can be one of the person who tries them. Other people can try them. And then there's experiences. And observing those experiences tells the truth. That's where you get the best information. And when you observe a really interesting mechanic, you see people doing it. They use it. They have fun. They talk about it. They ask questions about it. It's inherently obvious, right? So that's why I love the empowering system so much. Just because it is relatively simple. It's not like a really long script. Uses some math and some variables, and it's like some algebra, basically. And it's just so game changing in that way. And it's evolved, it's gotten more complicated, now it like has customizations and there's some like basic cheat detection. So if you try and spawn an item on another server at like level 40 or whatever and bring it to Palm, then Palm will like have problems with that. If you throw it into the world or you die, it looks in your tombstone and looks through your stuff and like gets rid of the cheat swords and these little things. Ultimately people can still cause problems, but there's so much more that we can do to react, and that's sort of I'll kind of close with this. If you're interested in these sorts of things, by the way, hello Tobias Cruz, welcome. If you're interested in these kind of like Valheim server development concepts, think of it like something that grows over time. It's if you try and make like a whole thing that you plan every part out, it might not do as well. It's kind of a bit different than building in that sense, because in building it's really good to get that basic framework and set it up. Whereas EWP, it really like evolves, and as you get used to it, you're going to make things differently. And the more you let go and you just go off of, if anyone has an idea and they seem to care about it, try it. See what happens. And you might be shocked at what ends up happening. Because for me, like, there's now a custom Valheim world that I manage, and I get to spend huge chunks of my time doing what I love. And that's awesome. I didn't plan that. It unfolded through these things happening. And that's what I'm getting back to. We get in our own way. And keep that in mind, because we live in a society where they focus a lot on thought and thinking and taking credit for things. It's all nonsense. All we really do is get anxious, overthink, and get in our own way. If you want to do anything, especially if it's something creative, you need to stop. Slow down. That's it. And if you feel like that's wrong, I challenge you to stop. Shut your eyes. In a situation where you can't hear a whole bunch of stuff, see what happens. See how long you can handle that. For most people, if you actually do that, you will become aware of exactly what is next for you, what you need to do. It's unavoidable. It's deep within you and whoever you are. It will occur. You can only get in the way. And that's what thinking is. It is the reasoning that you can't live the life you want because, but it's all bullshit. You are a human with intelligence that is insane, and you will just flow like water into the environment that you occupy. You can only think that that won't happen and stop yourself from being in that situation. But ultimately, you will do what you need to do. You just have to have faith. And if you don't have faith, then you're going to keep trying to stop yourself. And you're going to keep trying to control and get in the way. And you have to accept how things are. It always has to start with accepting what is. If you try and resist it, it's going to get worse. And you might find that everything in your life is the way it is because you try and resist it. So as soon as you stop, life changes. Because a life of suffering fundamentally requires that you are trying to resist what is. As soon as you start accepting what is, and you start accepting that you don't have to change it right now, ironically, that can lead to some insane change. And I've seen that unfold in my life in many, many different situations, and also in other people's. So I'll end with that. And thanks for watching, everybody. If you want to support my work, then you could join me on Patreon. That's a way to just chip in some money or something, and you could do it for a month or every month or whatever. I don't expect if you do it for a bit that you need to keep going. Just do it for as long as you want to, if you want to. It's not a requirement by any means. And also thank you so much to Pan and Teens who are supporting me on Patreon. Alternatively, you could use some service like a dedicated Valheim server. If you want to make your own custom experience, Because I know some of you watching, you want to play on the server. Other people want to, like, make their own things and get ideas from the server, and that's fine. Like, you can literally copy stuff, word for word, that I do. I don't care. In my head, copying is the greatest form of flattery, and I don't even think about it that way. It's literally like, you'll be able to make things, and I'll learn from it, and the things I make are going to be different. We have different tastes, different styles, and EWP is so flexible that it doesn't really matter because it's going to be different ultimately. Everybody's going to have their own influences. The members in their community have different influences, and it's a really good time. I got loads of content about all of that stuff and a lot of details about it because, you know, I've been running the server for a while, and I've come into a lot of problems that I've learned how to fix in that time. So you can expect that I have tutorials about pretty much any issue you'll encounter. Not every single thing, but everything that I've had to deal with, of course. And if not, you can always just like the video and check out some other Valheim content. Even just watching Valheim content in general is great. I mean, like, realistically, the best thing you can do for Valheim is, like, talk about Valheim. There's a lot of people who really love Valheim, and then there's a lot of people who just don't know how awesome Valheim is yet. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.